Okay, let's just jump right into it then.
Right.
Welcome back to the podcast, you fuck!
You fuck. Great. We're block.
I'm out on GameCube. Like, this is getting really foggy, and I'm completely offline now. I'm not by my computer, so you're just getting me without fact checking. So I apologize if I say anything that's kind of not completely accurate.
I will hit the Google as we speak, or as you speak, because I am curious. But back to Romero, that is a good. I remember being a fanboy back then and looking into his script and everything, and even that commercial he did in Japan, which
the commercial for Resident Evil 2, the game, yeah, that was awesome. You know, in a great mid to late '90s kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So I've since have learned to appreciate the original Resident Evil movie, and honestly, that appreciation didn't come about until I got it on Blu-ray, and then I could see what they were doing. I could see another thing too. Well, go on the Blu-ray thing. You know, the picture quality was good. The sound was phenomenal. I have quite the home theater. I'm a bit of a videophile and an audiophile, so I can't even go into Best Buy without laughing hysterically. So my rig's fucking is top notch. So aesthetically, I grew to like it a lot more, and then I started to see what they were doing with it and the fun that they were having, and just kind of like being more creative, you know. I think another thing too is when Constantine Films and Screen Gems got their hands on the property, I don't think they really understood what they were getting themselves into. I think they were looking something that was a lot more like action oriented. Maybe they were looking for aliens of a new age, but Resident Evil just wasn't that. So that's one of the reasons why Romero ultimately didn't work on it, because they wanted something a little more bankable, something a little more action-oriented, and something that would spur a sequel. And despite the time of the year that it came out, they were looking for more of a they were looking for that February blockbuster. I don't even know if it was delayed, but that's, if I remember correctly, that's when it came out of that year.
I just sorry to cut you off. There's two announcements. The first, the film came out in March 2002. Resident Evil 0 came out in November 2002. And one more time before I interrupt you, ChronoLink 9 has finally finished his chicken dinner. He graces us with his presence. You fuck, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Chrono, you fuck! Fucking guy taking his time. You know.
I know.
We're on a bit of a time limit. I gotta go to bed at a decent hour, man.
Okay, it's. See, I'm used
fuck.
to that. I'm used
What
to...
is that? No. What is that? Okay. You're not even going to fucking apologize. Okay,
yeah,
Chrono,
you fuck.
You fuck. You fucked it up. No, okay.
You fucked up. I don't want your apology. Welcome to your podcast, you fuck.
Isn't it great? Like, we don't even show up to our own podcast anymore. It's just like, that's the kind of show we're running here. We show up late and we don't apologize to our guests. We treat them like garbage, and then that's it. That's the end of the show. So
yeah, because somebody's hogging all the fucking chicken sponsorships. Hook me up with the coupon. But here's the deal, Chrono. We were talking about the Resident Evil films. Terence was giving his one by one rundown.
Mm-hmm.
Terence, continue. This fuck doesn't deserve to be interrupted again.
You fuck. Okay.
Okay. I am sorry though. I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
It was a good chicken dinner, but it was.
It better have been worth it, man. You're not on the Christmas card list as of yet this year.
We love you, Chrono.
Okay. Well,
I don't.
Okay.
It's okay. Maybe I masturbate to you a bit.
I was saying I'll have to earn that back somehow.
All right.
Maybe a blowjob or something.
Yeah. You got long hair? I don't know. So, anyways, Chrono, I'm not gonna bring you up to speed. You can listen to the podcast and hear what you missed. But in closing, for the first Resident Evil, it was a movie that I didn't exactly like, but I learned to like and I learned to appreciate. And I love the soundtrack. Marilyn Manson co-scored it with some other dude, and those two guys did a job. So it was great. So on to Resident Evil Apocalypse. A film that was filmed in my home, the city that I live in, Toronto, which is one of the reasons why I call it Raccoon City, because there's been like half a dozen high-profile zombie movies filmed here in the past decade or so. And the best things I can say about Resident Evil 2 is when they introduced Nemesis, where the stars were kind of hiding out. That's the old Westwood Theater that doesn't exist anymore, but I grew up 5 minutes away from that theater, so I saw the original Batman there. I saw like Beetlejuice
Wow.
and then later on Batman the Animated Series, Ace Ventura, and all that. So it's a shit old theater, but it had memories for me. And then years later, after the movie, of course, I lived in a condo very close to it, and my balcony, I was on the 20th floor. And all I do is look down and across the street, and there was the Westwood. So we had a meta moment by watching a Resident Evil Apocalypse in my home, and then going out in the balcony and screaming stars across the street at it. Overall, an extremely hokey movie. It's campy. I loved seeing where they shot it. There's so many recognizable locations in Toronto. The very first like teaser trailer or trailer where they show Raccoon City exploding, they didn't take out the CN Tower or what is now known as the Rogers Center, the Sky Dome. So you got to see Toronto blow up, and that was fun too. Okay, so probably one of the weakest. There are many weak movies to the series. Moving on to Resident Evil Extinction. It happened in a desert, and the best things I could say about it is they had crows.
Wow.
It actually took me. It wasn't until my third viewing of the movie where I didn't fall asleep, so I was actually able to make it through in one go. I just thought it was fucking stupid. It was a bad time for Hollywood. It was a bad time for the Resident Evil movie franchise. Probably for the game franchise at that point. I don't know then. I don't know when it was released in correlation to Resident Evil 4, but the game. But no, I just I didn't dig it. And like Part 2, it was not directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, and he's not exactly a fucking Orson Welles of cinema, but
Not exactly. That's even an insult. That's too flattering towards you. Let me ask you this, though, Terrence, because not growing up, but usually his claim to fame is Event Horizon. What do you think of that film now?
I love Event Horizon. I saw that in probably one of the best old school theaters, probably in Canada, and because it was called the Uptown. It's a theater that no longer exists, and it was a gorgeous theater that if you sat in the front row of the Uptown, there was a stage in front of you, so you literally could take your shoes off and just kind of plop your feet on the stage. And it was a THX certified theater, something that we don't have anymore because the big theater chain, Cineplex Odeon, are a bunch of cheap fucks. And all they care about sound quality is loud and lots of bass, and they don't give a shit about balancing. So and that's a movie that I saw many movies I saw in that theater. So any movie I saw in that theater, I remember fondly. Hell, I went to the Uptown to go to the Uptown. There's times I saw such miserable movies like Tank Girl where I literally did sleep through half of the movie, but I saw in the Uptown, so I was happy. Yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. But I'll just say, as far as W.S. Anderson, yeah, I really not too much of a fan. And looking back on Event Horizon, I'll just give all the credit to Sam Neill and just disregard the director. So
I don't even know if I've seen a Paul W.S. Anderson film.
You're lucky.
Yeah, no, I would honestly, I'd recommend watching I believe they reissued the Blu-ray of Event Horizon, because I remember getting it and selling it because it looked like a fucking DVD, but apparently they reissued it, so I'd look into that. That's a cautionary recommendation. It's a pretty fucked movie, and if you want to see where Visceral got the majority of their inspiration for the original Dead Space, it is found in Event Horizon.
Interesting.
Definitely.
All right, so moving on to Part 4, Resident Evil Afterlife is by far my favorite of the series to date. It started borrowing very heavily from the games, primarily Resident Evil 5, I believe, and then 4. Beautiful music again, interesting backdrop, kind of like a journeyman movie. I dug it. I really dug it. Like that's like a video game movie that actually works. And I know some reviews haven't been too kind, but I think after the first 3 movies, primarily the second and third, they're critics are just ready to pounce on this and just tear it apart. So I don't want to say too much about Resident Evil Afterlife, other than I own it on Blu-ray, and since I just got a new 3D TV, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy. I found it cheap on 3D Blu-ray, and I'm looking forward to enjoying that all over again. But let me tell you one quick story about Afterlife. When I saw it, it was during the Toronto Film Festival of that year, and the theater in which I saw it was one of the host theaters. So what had happened is the cinema number, whatever, 5, 6, 7, wherever, which actual individual theater I was seeing it in, they were showing Dan Boyle's new movie, which, fucked if I know what it was. I think it was Slumdog Millionaire. So anyways, they stopped selling tickets for the showing of Resident Evil Afterlife because the Danny Boyle showing, which I believe had a Q&A with him there, I could be wrong on that, lasted way longer. So what they ended up doing is they honored the tickets that were already sold. They showed the movie, and then when the credits were rolling, people got out of the theater. But as the credits were rolling, the next crowd of people came in for the next showing, and I literally had center. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch it again. One of 2 times I've ever done that in my life. The other time was the first Spider-Man movie where I took a piss and then snuck into another theater that just started it. So, glowing recommendation for Resident Evil Afterlife. If you only see one movie from that series to date, that's the one. And W.S. Anderson returned to direct, and it's one of his stronger efforts. And then Retribution, or whatever the fuck the newest one was called. I was so looking forward to it. I went so far out of my way to find a real IMAX theater to see it in, because even though a theater says it's IMAX, it's not always the case. There's a huge difference between real IMAX and what's kind of spoken in hushed and quick tones is digital IMAX, which is not IMAX. So the fifth one paid the most fan service out of any game. It had Barry in it. It had Leon in it. It had Ada was back, and it just kind of sucked. I've only seen it once in the theater. I haven't brought myself to buy it or to borrow it or to watch it or download it, anything. So overall, 4 is the best one. 1 is the second best one, and I could give a fuck about the others. There you go. Resident Evil fucking series overview. You literally just saved me from making a video on the old Chargeback Forward where I would still do shit like that.
There you go. And honestly, I don't know. This might seem a little bit off topic, but how much of a fan of you are of Highlander, of the Highlander films?
I loved the first Highlander movie.
Yes.
The Queen soundtrack, Sean Connery, Christopher Lambert is fucking absolute hammy best.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is like I'm not gonna shit on stuff that I can't remember clearly, but after the first movie is the only thing I remember clearly. I don't know how many other movies they made. I don't know when they got rid of Lambert, and I don't even know what they did with rebooting or repurposing back in the day. And I know there was a TV series that I also couldn't give a shit about. So, but I always remember the first Highlander, and it has a very special spot in my heart as one of those quintessential early to mid 80s movies that kind of, just really encapsulated what movie making was about back in the day. It was having fun. It was putting cool ideas on screen and just having at it.
Well
I
spoken.
like Highlander, man.
Well spoken, Terence.
Yo, you know what? Man? Thinking about it, I think the tagline from the movie is it speaks volumes to the franchise. There can only be one.
Exactly.
And that one is the original Highlander.
And plus, it actually ended in the original film. Lambert was the last. You can't disrespect the Kurgan, Clancy Brown, fine performance. Sean Connery, as you mentioned. But I was just going to say that besides the show and the sequels, they've progressively gotten worse. And it kind of, I'm kind of torn between which is worse, the Resident Evil franchise or the Highlander franchise in terms of sequels. But definitely, if anybody hasn't seen the original Highlander, definitely check it out. Like Terence said, it's one of the greatest '80s films. It's just great all around. Watch it for Sean Connery.
I saw the first half hour of it, and I wasn't in control of the TV at the time, so I think the channel got changed. But I was loving it. I thought it was really great.
Rewatch, get on that, rewatch that. And since we're talking about horrible sequels, guys, worst sequel I've ever seen, happens to be based off of a video game, and it is Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I remember the first one was delayed at least half a year because they pumped more money into the special effects because they kind of knew that they had something special on their hands.
Mhm.
You know, again, you know, not the greatest movie in the world, but it really worked, and it has stood for so many years as the quintessential like video game movie. So when a friend of mine at the time and I were really waiting for the second one, when the New Line cinema logo would pop up, we'd always scream Mortal Kombat, like waiting for that trailer, and then it finally happened, and then it looked how it looked, and we were cautiously optimistic, and then we saw it. And then we walked home from the theater, and that was an American speak that had to have been about 4 or 5 miles. And it was in November, around there when it was released, and it was kind of like raining. We ended up like using the train tracks to kind of make the travel a little more direct. And at a certain point, my friend was off the train tracks, and it was kind of like a slanted hill into a moat, and he kind of lost his footing. And he fell into this moat, and it's cold and it's wet. Like he fell into like a 4 or 5 inch deep little body of water, and he started crying. And I really got it, you know, because literally this guy loved Mortal like nothing else. Like Mortal and Street Fighter was his life. You know, like talking about how hardcore this guy was, you know, back in the mid '90s, he bought a 3DO so he could play the only version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo that was available in the home market. So he was hardcore into this shit. So when I saw him kind of like shed a couple of tears in the frustration, I really felt it, man. That it was I'm not sure if it was for me, but definitely for this guy, it was the end of innocence for him. This movie broke his childhood.
I don't remember it too well. Yeah, I mean, it definitely was horrible, and I think I only saw it the once. But yeah, even James Remar of the Warriors fame taking the mantle of Raiden with his buzz cut Mortal. It was horrible. But I would say the only redeeming factor, well, the first one I haven't watched it in a while, but again going back to Christopher Lambert and his trademark laugh, classic shit, classic with a K.
Exactly, and he's like, I don't think so.
But seriously, if you take anything away from Street Fighter the movie or Mortal Kombat the movie, just Lambert and Van Damme, this two performances totally redeemed those series.
You know what? You know the thing with Street Fighter the movie? You had some solid actors in there. Van Damme, as I found out many years later in his native tongue, I don't know if you guys ever seen a movie called JCVD. It's kind of like it's kind of about him, but in a fictitious kind of setting. And the guy can fucking act.
Yeah, I heard that
like,
I've heard that's incredible.
Yeah,
like he's really good.
There's this like Shakespearean level soliloquy that he delivers, and for the viewers that may not be into Shakespeare or whatever, soliloquy is essentially a monologue, and he's speaking in his native tongue, and it's just you can fucking feel it, man. I didn't even need to read the subtitles. I felt this guy in this moment. And you know, and Raul Julia, man, going back to Street Fighter, that was the last movie he was in. You know, he's fucking amazing. He was amazing. You know, when he's talking to Chun-Li, and he's like, you know, when I came to your town, it was the most important event in your life. For me, it was a Tuesday. I fucking howled. I'm like, oh my god, who is this? Why is Gomez fucking knocking it out of the park? Because he played Gomez in the Addams Family movies.
Which those I need to go back and watch Values again. But yeah, again going back to his performances in those films just right up there. Hey, I got to bring this up. I know we're kind of sabotage this with film talk, but definitely I feel it's appropriate talking to you about it, Terence. But this is a film I urge Chrono to watch, and it is a little film I believe in 1985, and I believe it's Tim Curry's finest performance. That film is titled Clue. What are your thoughts on this film?
Oh, fuck, man. I saw Clue when it came out in VHS in 1986. So if you were going to ask me any detail other than vaguely how Tim Curry looked and the fact that it, from what I remember, was based off of the board game, I got nothing. I'm sorry, man. I know I'm letting you down. Like, I have seen it, but it has been almost 30 years.
It is definitely worth a rewatch.
Oh,
I think it's
yeah.
some of the finest slapstick on film. Period. It's just
There you go.
especially
That's all I need.
because I mean, trust me, once it gets rolling, especially now with the communist humor and
Oh,
looking
yeah.
back on the stuff I didn't pick up as a kid, like especially the whole communist thing, but the last 25, 30 minutes of the film, it just picks up a pace, and Tim Curry just knocks it out of the fucking ballpark.
Yeah, the last like half hour is just, I was dying the whole time. It's really, really great.
It's got like Christopher Lloyd, Martin Mull. It's got an all-star cast on there. So definitely, I urge you to rewatch that one, Terence.
I'm actually putting it in my notepad on my phone. Watch Clue. It's happening. So it's not just lip service. I've actually like committed it to a digital reminder.
If you've got Netflix, I think it's still on there.
Yeah, I got Netflix. Well, your Netflix and
Yeah.
my Netflix are two different things, but there are ways.
There are ways. Maybe another T word, but we won't go there. But let's go back to video games. Well, somewhat video games. The last time you were on, a little video called Level 6 hadn't yet premiered. And like I've spoken to you I'll go over this briefly because I want to hear Chrono's thoughts. But definitely the build-up and the wait, so to speak, for that video, and then when it was finally delivered, I'll just say, without kissing your ass too much, as far as production and then content in more ways than one, it is the finest work of art in the YouTube community I have seen. And that's legit. I'm not just saying that because, you're one of our favorite guests and we're talking to you now. Just seriously, that especially I think you refer to it as a period piece because of the landscapes of Toronto changing. It definitely is. If it's the last video we see from Chargeback Forward, or the last level video we see, definitely. It was the ultimate bookmark and some of the finest work I've seen.
Batsa, Thank you. That means
you're welcome.
Means fucking lot to me. And especially the fact that we filmed that in the summer of 2011, and because of production woes that I didn't realize until I looked at the footage much after the fact, getting ready to edit it, it became a process from the time that we started writing Level 6, which ultimately became known as Connect Report. It's a parody of Minority Report. Certain members of the YouTube community, excuse me, have been very astute in picking up on some of the more subtle homages and reference that I made. I didn't want to make it too fan servicey, but I felt certain nuances had to be present. But yeah, man, from the time that we put pen to paper and wrote the script, did the storyboards, to the time that it was actually released was almost 2.5 years, and there was a huge amount of production problems and post-production problems that thank God I got through, and I'm extremely proud. I'm not patting myself on the back, but
No, you should be.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of ultimately the footage I had to work with, and I don't really care. I'll shit talk him because I know he's not really into this kind of scene, so he won't be listening to it. But the guy that I had as the main camera operator kind of got confused at times and thought he was the director, and he was at odds. I was at odds with him just based off of that, because he would take 30 minutes to do a fucking shot, and it's the shot where the agents are notified what's going on, and they kind of make their way to their vehicle to kind of stop the murder from happening. That shot, I swear to God, it took him half an hour, and he just couldn't understand what I was saying to him. Like, even though like he saw the storyboards, I'd walked him through it, I told him how I wanted the shot to be. So I literally just grabbed the rig and I'm like, hey, can I just see the camera rig for a second? and I literally what it was is this guy bought a Steadicam vest and arm, and then like it's a Steadicam's rival. It's called Glide Cam, and that's basically, it's a thing that, when you walk with the camera, it's very smooth, like it's floating, right? So he had all this equipment, and he never bothered teaching himself how to use it. So there are certain scenes that worked out because of his inexperience, certain scenes that did not. But I just grabbed literally the camera and the Steadicam and left him with his vest and his fucking alien's arm, And I'm just saying that if you remember the big guns from Aliens, and they were on that kind of that rig that they were wearing, that was a steady cam. That vest and then that fucking arm that helps support the weight, that's a steady cam.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, I took the camera,
definitely.
I flipped it upside down, and I just literally held it by the bottom close to the ground. I'm like, in action. And I got the guys to walk. And you know what's funny about those feet, though? Those 3 pairs of feet that I filmed, those were all stand-ins for the 3 agents at the end. But I literally did it in one take. And when I cut, I flipped the camera back up. I looked at the viewfinder to make sure that I got it. I'm like, okay, let's move on. And that was so. Unfortunately, I'm not going to bitch about it, but there's several instances where he was kind of at odds at me, and he kind of interrupted my flow, and you know, and I could really see that when I took time to sit down and watch the footage after the fact, which made me realize, and I have learned, man, the importance of watching your dailies. So if you shoot something, you literally watch it that night. Mm-hmm. So that's that was the experience. But the fact that I was able to overcome all of that, and the amount of post-production work I put into it, I ended up having to recreate 90% of the soundscape. Had to do a lot of ADR, which is additional dialogue recording for the people that were in it. I'm fucking proud of it, man. There's no other way. You know, it's not the best thing in the world, but the people that know me and have come to know me through Chargeback Forward, they really got that. You know, they really got that. I put my fucking heart and soul into that. I was like, if it kills me, I'm gonna finish it. And it was really, it's kind of cathartic. I never really thought about it. That I premiered it on Halloween of 2012, and then 2013, and then a couple of months later, you know, like I had to deal with the fact that Chargeback Forward was going through a major change, and it was becoming a show that was basically run by myself. So kind of like I never really thought about that. Like Botsa, you were kind of mentioning that before, kind of like if this was the last kind of, it's definitely the end of an era. You know, like I even like tourniqueted that season because I realized, you know, at a certain point when Big Mike left the show, that it was just kind of like to put that to sleep and kind of rethink what I wanted to do with that YouTube channel. So I learned a lot from it, and I'm not done. So I'll talk about that in a bit, but Chrono, man, what'd you think of Level 6?
Having very little knowledge of Minority Report, but I know lots about it. My brother has talked about it a lot, and I'm very interested in the movie. It's definitely on a must-see list. That being said, it was just awesome. Like I was gripped from, you know, the first 10 seconds of the thing. The music was amazing. The cinematography was really, really good. The lighting, and I was gripped the whole time. I thought it was really, really good. And I mean, I think Botsa said it best. I mean, I think that was one of the best, you know, most artistic things I've seen, you know, come out of this community. And it's really, really something. Yeah, I really need to go back and watch it. It's been, I don't think I've seen it since it premiered, but it really was something. I really enjoyed it from start to finish.
Right, man.
Really great.
Even without the knowledge of Minority Report, even if you just take the concept of precogs and the notion of the future, I mean, besides, and Terence, I'll say this as a strength because in a way, it makes it more impactful that it was delayed or filmed so early. I mean, filmed in the past, because even if you take into account Big Mike's departure, mainly the Xbox, the Kinect factor. I mean, this was still before the Xbox One was even announced.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that shitstorm coming. And I'll use that as a segue into our next thing about, you know, how they kind of dropped it from E3. But going back to that, just as far as like even if you take away just the production content, which really is hard to dismiss, but like just the way it was relevant in so many ways, and then the fact of just the new level. Because honestly, I was a big fan of you guys' stuff before, and I always thought it would be hard to top the the Apocalypse Now riff you guys did, because to me, again, that was one of my top moments in the YouTube community, is the simple line, "Are you a collector?" "No, I'm a gamer." And riffing off Kurtz and everything, I thought that was just fucking hilarious. And then level 6, and I'm like, it was just like I said, we don't sit here, kiss your ass too much, but it really is like a masterpiece. But
Can I? Sorry.
Go
No, please continue.
It's a fucking masterpiece. No, but I mean, really, besides the level 6, I mean, just the levels in general, but just the fact that I know you were worried, especially as a fanboy, because Chrono, this goes back to like just the Star Wars prequels and my stance, even on modern film in general. And we can talk more about film a little bit later, but like just the hype in general and being disappointed, the fact that this was put on the back burner for so long, for reasons out of control, but the fact it was delayed, and that when it finally was delivered, it definitely, I'm not saying I was downplaying it, but it definitely passed any kind of standard I had met for it. But the fact is, now it's just hard to get your hopes up for anything, and the fact that it was delayed. I know you as a creator, that's something to worry about, because I know for a while there was, even on the last podcast, I didn't want to bring it up. I know Chrono did. When's level 6 coming? You don't want to harp on that, but the fact that it was delayed for so long, the fact that it does come out, not only is it redeemed itself by the wait, but redeems itself in so many more ways. I can understand that being a burden on you, but also, please go ahead and say what you were going to say. But is there any chance you can tell us what the future levels would have been, or if they're possibly still coming?
Yes, so I'm going to answer your first question first, and it's with the inevitable reason for the delay was the fact that I was so dissatisfied with the quality of footage that I had. It was an extremely large process just to pick the best takes, and then what I had to deal with the footage. So I guess a lot of people that watch YouTube, I don't want to pigeonhole. Obviously, a YouTuber like Alpha Omega Sin, God bless him. Guy's very popular. He's got a great formula. Nobody thought of before, and he's huge. He's got like 250,000 subscribers, whatever. But there's zero production value. That dude sits in front of his computer. He reads what's new for stories. He sits in front of his camera and swears a lot. And then what do you guys think? And that's it, right? So.
Yeah.
So, and then I don't really give a fuck about allegiances or any of that bullshit, like whatever, right? So when I say this, I'm saying this earnestly. GameSack, which is a show on YouTube, has some of the best editing of a video game show. Outside of Chargeback Ford, of course, right? But those guys are fantastic behind the camera, but those fucking guys should never be in front of the camera. They have about as much charisma and chemistry as a rock and someone pissing on it. They're just not, it's like, and I don't want to shit on them. Like, hey, it's fantastic. They're a hell of a lot more successful than I've ever been with Big Mike or in my solo venture with CBF, but it's not enjoyable, right? So when you do more complex stuff, or when you do something like how the Happy Console Gamer spent 4 years making a fucking movie, and then me with Connect Report, so much effort goes into it, and then thankfully, I don't know, I usually don't give a fuck about comments, and I'm even down to chirp people that kind of troll me. But with level 6, it was huge, and I was very touched by all the positive things people said. Yeah, of course there's going to be negative things, but whatever. Those were people that expressed their opinion, and I appreciated it. Some of them were valid, some of them were like whatever. But at the end of the day, very few people understand the amount of work that goes into something like Connect Report, and the fact that post-production was handled exclusively by me. The only thing that I didn't have a direct hand in was the music. That most of it was provided by my friend and co-host at 3 Kilobytes, Jason Hooft, and then another friend of mine that wrote some original music for it, Paul Cal. So other than that, it was it was, if I didn't do anything, it wasn't moving anywhere, and and that's one of the reasons it lasted so long. I couldn't bring myself to it. So. I'm sorry for being long-winded. I just had a drink and it's really opened me up. But I'm gonna answer the next question. Level 7 was gonna film, would have already been filmed, and it was gonna be a near shot-for-shot recreation of the opening heist of Drive. And the difference being is it would be very video game focused, and with everything that I've learned from pre-production, production, and post-production from Connect Report, as infinitely known as its codename Level 6, there was going to be a very short turnaround, so we were gonna shoot it in such a way that it would have been relevant to the like the PlayStation 4 launch. And I really wish we could have done it. And I'd already started kind of working on location scouting, and we hooked up with an amazing camera guy. He was going to shoot it for me, so he was going to be handling the cinematography, and I'd be directing again. But Big Mike left the show, and it's kind of weird because Big Mike left the show as I was telling him I was brought on to 3 Kilobytes as their new co-host. So obviously I'm not gonna, like I know I'm a smaller channel, I fucking 5,500 subscribers, 300 something thousand lifetime views, right? So doing it by myself just didn't seem worth it. So unfortunately, Level 7 was laid to rest, as were all others. Other things that we were going to do is we were going to do an Alan Wake level. We were going to do a Silent Hill level. We were going to do a a Splinter Cell Conviction level, complete with projected images boomed onto walls and the scenery as violence is going down. Trying to think what else. We were definitely going to do. I had a really cool idea to do a Resident Evil thing, and it was going to play more like a trailer than it would of a short film. And trying to think if there was anything else. We had like 5 or 6. But at the end of the day, we had production meetings when Chargeback Forward was a little bigger. We had some people helping out behind the scenes in terms of photography, and we've had some people handling the camera work and stuff over the years. But yeah, pretty much when I joined 3KB and then CBF became my solo show, kind of the Chargeback Forward levels died. So with that somber and depressing note, I'm going to let you guys have an exclusive because I haven't said this anywhere else. So right now I'm literally I'm fine-tuning the climax of our of 3KB Film's first short film, which I'll be directing and starring in. And it's other than the climax, it's completely written out, and hopefully we're going to be shooting it within the next. I would like to shoot it by the fall, and it's going to be a short film based in the Last of Us universe. Thus, the reason why I have this amazing beard, but will not. Unlike all the other Last of Us short films that just basically try to get views based off of no one actually playing the game and understanding it, I've written a script that's literally like year 1 of the outbreak, and it's obviously a smaller in scope. It's very doable. And it's going to be very original. The only thing that's not going to be original is the fact that it's in the Last of Us universe and some character designs of some of the infected. But other than that, it's going to be a completely accessible piece of entertainment that, if you've never seen The Last of Us or haven't played The Last of Us, it won't matter because you'll be able to enjoy the short on its own merit. So there you go, guys. Cool. Last of Us short film. Hopefully, the sooner we get a shot, the sooner I can start doing post-production. But if I can get all the ducks in a row and we can get it off before the fall, this may be 3KB's Halloween episode.
Very nice. Definitely look forward to that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to a much larger audience, 3KB is pushing 50,000 subscribers and like 8 or 9 million lifetime views. So it's definitely a different venue for me to kind of share my creativity with the world.
And that's it. I mean, yeah, the creative aspect, and plus, even in film, you consider yourself an artist. But definitely, and even moving forward, because like you mentioned, the other YouTube channels, definitely don't let that discourage you, or even troll or negative comments, because people, it might not be something, the finished product might not be what they're expecting or what they thought it would be, which is something you don't need to worry yourself about regardless. But the YouTube community, you know, a garden full of roses is a garden full of 100 roses is better than a million weeds, you know. And plus the fact that you're doing legit productions. I mean, like you said, nothing against Alpha Omega Sin, but you know, the production values in those are lacking. Plus, in the mindset of the casual fans, they want to see pickup videos, they want to see room tours, they want to see the rarest items in your collection. And I'm saying that because the sad truth is, something, I don't know the statistics, but probably I would imagine that the room tours for Chargeback 4 probably have more views and more likes than any of the levels. And that's just the mentality of the, you know, of the fans, I would say. You know, so I wouldn't let that discourage you more, because you know it's criminally underrated that, you know, level 6 won't be as claimed. But like I said, for the people that get it and appreciate it, that's definitely, like I said, the roses and weeds mentality. Because like I said, anybody can do pickups and rarest games I own, which I'm not knocking those, but I'm saying when you actually have artistic videos being made, you know, something you need to kind of cherish or at least appreciate, which especially when the content's superb, you know, you could easily appreciate it.
No, for sure. I don't get me wrong either. Like, I'm not really down about it. It's kind of funny. One of my roles on 3KB is I've largely muscled Jay off of reading the comments, because he'll get into arguments with people. And the 3KB, the analytics on the demograph, it's a contrast to Chargeback 4. Chargeback 4 has like an older viewer base, whereas 3KB is kind of like as a younger viewer base, and it's kind of I've changed a lot in terms of how I've perceived. Like, I've never really taken criticism poorly or gotten upset, but it was kind of like, I guess the comment I was making about level 6 is, with the few exceptions of some of the things like the Apocalypse Now scenes from level 5, and then, you know, I think I did a very quick thing, a quick little video called Survival Horror Then and Now, and it was literally like it was ripped out of the headlines that EA said that they weren't going to be focusing on any future property that they did would not be single player focused, and it was kind of, that was around the framework of Dead Space, so I kind of I wanted to have fun with that. And then even that little video was like, we did it in 5 minutes, so it wasn't epic or anything, but it was just funny, with level 6. It was like something that was like, this is like something that haunted me for 2.5 years, and I put so much effort into it, and also I had hyped it up so much because I thought it was going to be out a lot sooner, and there was footage that I was very, very pleased with. So no, it's like, what it comes to now, everybody's got their opinion, and the way that I look at it, I'm always a person that thinks, like, if you can't say something nice, you don't say anything at all. But the internet warriors, with the anonymity that presents, they like to balance out the inadequacies of their lives, and that's how they do it. And that's just the reality, man. Mm-hmm. And it's like for anybody, like anybody listening out there, like, that's even has a small channel or is thinking of starting a channel, it's like, yeah, that's a reality, but that's kind of like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like, if you're going to put something out there, you put it out there, and then it's your choice whether you read the comments or not. But if people are going to shit over it, and if you don't agree with that, that's their opinion. And as long as they're not being malicious, they're entitled to that opinion. So, like my own girlfriend doesn't like level 6. Like, she says it, and I agree. She says it drags up to a certain point, and then me as the filmmaker and the creator, I agree with that. Like, I love level 6 from a certain point on. But all of that, I've internalized in a positive way, and I'm really hoping that I get to make The Last of Us short, because the story that I wrote is it's really special, and I put a lot of time into The Last of Us, like a lot of time, and I really got that game. I really got what Naughty Dog was trying to do, and not just on a surface level, like there's a there's like a show that I've seen on PBS a couple of times, and they focus on literature and books. And they actually invited the creative director from The Last of Us onto the show to talk about the literary aspects of The Last of Us, and it was the first time ever they had a video game featured on this show. So that was a pretty cool moment, man. So
Wow.
yeah, that's
Nice.
just an alcohol-induced rambling. Next question.
Oh, it's highly encouraged here. But let me jump into Last of Us real quick because that was your game of the year last year, and
It's my game of the generation, man.
game of the generation. Well, I can definitely see that. I probably would agree with it, but
I haven't played it yet, so I can't see.
I was gonna get to that, Chrono. I was gonna ask because you finally got a PS3, you finally own the game,
I do.
and you fuck.
You fucked up. You fucked up. It comes out on PS4 in fucking like a month and a half.
That's the thing. Hopefully,
I didn't see that. I'm thankful that they tagged it in front, like this trailer contains spoilers, because I've heard that they spoil like one of the biggest parts of the game in the trailer they've made for the remaster or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yes, I had to like run out of the room and like.
well, I'm actually looking forward to it on PS4 because I guess I'll go ahead and get into it. I got into the winter area, and then my PS3 shit the bed. But as far as you choosing it for your game of the generation, honestly, I do agree with that because I've said in the past about the Uncharted series, is especially when you take into consideration the piece of shit that was Indiana Jones 4, the Crystal Skull, and then you take into consideration that a little film called National Treasure, which was a Nicolas Cage vehicle, I just want to throw that out there, was better than the Indiana Jones long-awaited sequel. Yeah, it was very better. But it's still, anyway, but this Uncharted game comes out, especially the sequel. This franchise comes out, it surpasses its film's counterpart, so to speak. And then not only that, to me, it's what the new generation of games needed to be. It was, you can buy a PS3, you can watch your Blu-rays on it, you can buy, certain types of media, DVD, Blu-ray, but also you have PS3 games, which if you want to tread the line of interactive movie, sure, you can do that. But I think that's really what the Uncharted series was. Last of Us took that to the next level. I mean, sure, the platforming at Uncharted was fun and top-notch, but The Last of Us really, as far as the narrative, film, and game interactive experience, it really was just well crafted because it was, to me personally, I didn't like the gameplay as much as I should have, but it really fit the narrative. I mean, the whole, the tense moments and it fit the flow of the gameplay perfectly. You had to be in a certain mood to play the game. I wasn't able to pass through it. It took me months to get up to the winter stage, but whenever I was in that mindset, I would plow through it and really enjoyed it. And I think really that's what the interactive movie or media of games needs to be. And I don't think it's going to be surpassed for some time. But yeah, unfortunately, the PS3 shit the bed. But it really was a top-notch experience. And Chrono, I'm disappointed you haven't played it yet. Did you at least beat Final Fantasy?
I still haven't even done that, yo. I've gotten easily distracted. I've been busy for the past like 3 months. Yeah, I've had a hard time just sitting down and trying to finish games. I graduated from college, Terence, so
Congratulations. Very good.
Yeah, so I was kind of focusing on that and focusing on spending as much time with my friends as I possibly could. So that kind of came at the detriment of playing games, and I felt that was more important at the time. So I have been playing a lot of stuff since the summer started, but still not as much. I'm hoping to once I've been working on platinuming, well, at least getting far, not platinuming it, but I've been working on, I got a real Medal of Honor kick after, like around Memorial Day, and so I downloaded the Medal of Honor Frontline HD remaster for they did a horrible job with it, honestly, for the PS3. It's glitchier than the original game was, and it doesn't really look all that great, but it's the only way I have to play that game because my brother took all our GameCube controllers when he moved out. So,
put it down, Chrono. You fucked up. Put it down, Chrono. Put it down and jump into The Last of Us. Because I'm telling you, like,
Yeah.
Like, even if the gameplay, because most modern games to me, unless you're really into them, like Metal Gear Rising, can't be over the top as hell, but it was fun at its core in that arcadey gameplay. Some games, they're just like, you just plow through them. They're almost like a nuisance because you just want to get to checkpoint, proceed the story. But like I said, really, you can't emphasize that enough in Last of Us because you know the low on ammo, the horror aspect, but really you're in the boots of these characters and it makes sense flowing through the narrative. Plus, I didn't say this, and you mentioned it, Terrence, in your new upcoming video, how the look or the vibe of The Last of Us is going to be apparent, especially in any medium now. It's fucking oversaturated. Even though we've been talking about Resident Evil a majority of this episode, it's fucking oversaturated as the market is with zombies and the zombie apocalypse. The take of Last of Us was fresh, original, and it was actually inviting because I've been burned out on zombies for God knows how long, and their take on it was definitely something fresh.
Yeah, because they definitely are not zombies. And one thing I want to add is this is a game that you're gonna walk around for the sake of walking around. Like, obviously, now that we're getting into the next gen, and then hopefully even with the remastered, they'll make it better. But what I loved about it was just walking around, man. You know, like, I want to walk around. I want to go in that garage. I want to go into that home. I want to see what's up. I want to see what I can find. And it's the quieter moments. The Last of Us excels like nobody's business in the quieter moments. And in terms of playing the game, there's not one way to play the game. Like the first time I played like a survival horror game, something like that, or Resident Evil or Dead Space, I have a very slow, plodding pace that I undertake, and it magnifies the tension exponentially. So I had a buddy of mine over, and I was playing it for him. I'd already cleared it, and for some reason I don't know why, but I felt like I needed to rush through the game, so I played it much more aggressively, and I realized that even though I enjoyed it, that he would have preferred to have seen how I had played it before. So that being said, like, The Last of Us is a game that you're going to put time into, you're going to enjoy immensely, and then when you clear it, you're not going to be able to stop thinking about it, and then you're going to go back and play. I've cleared it on various difficulty levels. I think I've cleared it 4 times now, and the only reason I stopped is because they announced that it was coming on PS4. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to get back into it. I fucking love that game, man.
Especially, like you just said, because the only parts I found myself rushing through with the enclosed buildings, dark corridors with flashlights, because even the outside scenery was beautiful because, again, going back to any other medium or any other film adaptation, most of it's like a worn out city, bent up, just, basically it's just in the shits. It's run down, but you actually get to see nature overtaking life, coming, just the weeds and grass and everything that, if you set the D-Day and then, 20 years later, the natural evolution, just the way just everything about the game. Can't praise it enough.
That was what I loved about Enslaved, Odyssey to the West. It was this huge, it was post-apocalyptic in the sense that, like, everything had been destroyed, but it was, like, so many years after that, like, nature had just completely taken over everything. And it was just, like, the spectacle and the awe-inspiring, like, moments of just looking at the environment was just really, really something. And I generally think of, like, games that do quiet well, and like Shadow of the Colossus immediately comes to mind, of course. And so you saying that, like, about this game makes me, like, I think after we stop talking, I think I'm probably gonna go upstairs and just start it up.
Oh god, I'm so jealous of you right now, because I don't want to hype it, but you're gonna have a fucking experience, man. I guarantee you that you're going to have an experience.
Definitely. Even people talk about the first 10, 15 minutes getting you hooked, but definitely the first hour altogether is gonna get you hooked. And definitely, I know you're obviously a Final Fantasy fan, and to put that on the back burner, but definitely Last of Us, you're gonna be surprised. You're gonna put down those chicken dinners for the rest of the week. It's a sacrifice to play The Last of Us.
Yeah.
No, good stuff, man. What do you guys think of? I guess since you haven't played it, Chrono, this is more to Bot. So listen to me. It's like it's my podcast now. What do you think about the fact that they're making a Last of Us movie, and it's actually they're working with the creative directors and a lot of the talented staff at Naughty Dog to make sure it's done right. How do you feel about that?
I had heard about that, but I'd honestly forgotten about it. And I mean, hopefully it's a success, but honestly, I don't see why there needs to be a film counterpart when you've got the game. Because like I said, go ahead.
So I'll say this is true, but we're still waiting for that great video game movie. Whether or not this is going to be it, because if you want to really get into it, I haven't seen it yet, but The Last of Us draws heavily on a movie and book called The Road, and a couple other things. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
I'm trying to think of good video game movies now that you mention it. Even though we were talking about them earlier.
One of the few that I actually really liked, honestly, was I thought The Sands of Time was actually pretty good. Like, not like, wow, this is it was one of the better video game movies I've seen, but it wasn't like, it wasn't enough to say like, this is the video game movie. This is like that we've been waiting for. It was, it was good, but it wasn't like great. I guess it felt a little too generic. But I thought it was good for what it was, though.
I know it's not the same category, but I will say, not video game, but board game. I'll go back to Clue again. Definitely, Terrence, you got. Let me know what you think when you rewatch that. Now, there's no rush on it. Definitely months down the line, but let me know what you think because. God damn, that is just like I said. I don't know how much of a Tim Curry fan you are, but my God, fuck the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The last 20 minutes of Clue is just, god damn, it's just.
That's fantastic. It's kind of funny that you mentioned Prince of Persia. I was thinking about. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really get into that. But I've noticed this very awkward trend in Hollywood as of late, and it's kind of like, I don't know, man. It's like I'm starting to have a problem with whitewashing of characters. Like Jake Gyllenhaal, he's a good actor, but he's not exactly who the character should have been. It happens in the Middle East. Should have had a Middle East person play that role.
For crying out loud, at least get someone like that has Mediterranean skin. Like,
yes,
no one in the movie. No, I don't think like maybe some of like the background people, but like practically nobody in the movie has that skin type, and it's just like,
my God,
come on.
They're not the only offender
weird.
though.
Yeah, it's true.
It's fucked. Like even like Confession Time. I read the Hunger Game books before the movies came out. It was just literally like I just wanted some light pulp reading while I was on vacation, and they end up making it into movies. And I don't know how you guys feel about her, but they end up fucking casting that hack Jennifer Lawrence to just she just fucking looks like a child playing dress up in her mother's clothes half the time.
It's funny you make that comparison because let's see, Red Letter Media, they say the same thing about her. Like in most of the movies that she's in, they're like, yeah, it's like American Hustle. It just feels like she's just this little kid playing dress up. Like,
yeah, fucking for sure. Well, great minds think alike. I love that show. I gotta get caught up. I haven't watched it, and I keep on looking for the latest Plinkett review.
Oh yeah, fuck! Hey, look, I was about to say if you were familiar with any of that, Chrono. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but give Terrence some of your Plinkett.
Okay. Star Wars Episode 1 was the most disappointing thing since my son. Even though my son eventually hanged himself in a gas station bathroom, the sad truth is that the Star Wars prequels are going to be around forever.
Listen, Chrono, listen, I need to hear you fuck in Plinkett's voice. You fuck.
You fuck.
Yes. Thank you for that, Chrono.
Oh my God, President Taft, you fat fuck! I know you're cheap because I sold that suit that you're wearing for the portly gentleman. You fuck! Right now, a neighbor's calling the cops on me.
Oh.
All right.
Let me ask you this.
Fucking,
Oh, go
hold
ahead,
on,
Carl.
in 5 seconds, rapid fucking fire. Favorite Blanket review.
Episode 1.
Mm,
Gotta be. That's the
It's
one we're
like-
talking about, the raids. Infected.
episode. Yeah, that's a great moment. Episode
You'll
2.
need the blue kind.
I'm a big fan of episode 2. I just the sequence where they're talking about like all the bad points, like why Padme should not go after Anakin. That's
Oh
just
my God.
It's a priceless segment. Especially the end where like, you know what? Forget everything I said. George Lucas, you win the totally and completely understands woman award.
Oh fuck.
Terrence, go
For
ahead.
non-Star Wars, Baby's Day Out.
Yes, I was just about to say that, especially when they're talking about the trailer, where in the trailer the carriage flips and the baby's head fucking takes a dive splat on the concrete.
Yeah. I was like, oh my
You
God, I hope
fucked.
he's okay.
Terrence, I gotta ask you this real quick. I gotta jump back into regular film. Have you seen The Master by Paul Thomas Anderson?
I'm sorry, I haven't seen it yet.
No, that's fine because I haven't seen it yet either, and I've been meaning to, especially after, unfortunately, Philip Seymour Hoffman passed. But I was just gonna say, as far as modern cinema, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think he's the best director today. And I think Boogie Nights was probably the best film of the 90s, and There Will Be Blood was probably the best movie of the 2000s. And it's a shame because I still haven't gotten on my ass and watched The Master, especially with the Scientology overtones. But I was just curious to see if you could give me any feedback on it. But I haven't seen it yet either, so no dishonor there.
No, cool.
But
It's kind of funny. You made me think of another Anderson, Wes Anderson.
What do you think of The Life Aquatic?
You know what? That's a movie I haven't been able to watch yet. I own it and I haven't been able to watch it. But I did watch one of his. I haven't seen the Grand Budapest Hotel yet. But I saw the one that he did before, the fucking
Moonrise.
the one with like the Boy Scout.
Was it Moonrise Kingdom?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, I heard it was really really good.
The beautiful part about this director is he has found a way to direct in such a way that harkens back to the earliest films. Because when he films shit, especially openings, but being the majority of the film, every setup shot is like a tableau. It's like it is like a piece of art in and of itself, and I love that.
He definitely has a distinct style. But I think I had a conversation with Johnny Millennium about that. I'm not sure if he's gotten around to Life Aquatic or if he just couldn't get into it, but definitely, especially if you own it, watch it, because I think that's his finest. And it's definitely, if you just look at it perspective as a comedy, I mean, it delivers on all fronts. Chrono, if you haven't seen it, besides Bill Murray stealing the show, it's got some classic Jeff Goldblum in there.
Yeah, my brother's been trying to get me to see that. So
outstanding.
Yeah.
Good stuff. We all got some movies to watch this weekend, you fucks!
Well, you guys want to talk about E3 briefly, or?
Fuck, we'll talk about that bullshit. Why not?
Chrono? I'm sure you kept up with it a little bit more than I did.
Oh, I was I watched both Sony and Nintendo. I didn't get around to watching the other three. I just sort of heard highlights from the rest of them.
Please let me give you the highlights when you're ready. I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
Okay. Sony was pretty good. They had some pretty good games. A lot of the stuff has kind of been seen before. There were a few things of interest though. Was it Bloodborne? Looked interesting. It was the new From Software game. It's got a very dark, and grim looking. It just looks. The kind of the aesthetic looks like kind of very grim, but it looks like it could be interesting. Really though, honestly, I think Nintendo finally did what they needed to have done the past 2 or 3 years, and kind of let Mario sit on the back burner a little bit. There wasn't lots of Mario there, and they made note of that in the whole, the whole robot chicken aesthetic thing that they were doing, and some of the cutaways that'd be like, "Oh God, another Mario!" And then like Reggie's like, "Actually, we're not really debuting much of Mario this year." And they're like, "Where's Mother 3?" And like it's
That was good.
It was really good how they were kind of making fun of themselves. It was good. So Xenoblade Chronicles X, I want that now. Zelda Wii U, it was kind of like Studio Ghibli meets Skyrim. And it looks, I'm a Zelda fanboy, so of course I'm gonna be, on that day one, no matter what. So, Hyrule Warriors looks really good. I think Nintendo was strong overall. I mean, Star Fox is coming back. The new Super Smash Brothers looks incredible. I can't wait till October and I can get that for the 3DS, and that's coming out this like December or something for the Wii U. So yeah, they had a really strong showing. I mean, there was some times they have a new IP even, Splatoon, which is like
oh man, I love that. I love that.
Yes. I think the thing that made me the most excited was the fact that the three devs they showed that were talking about the game are younger. And Nintendo's, the old guard at Nintendo, they're getting old. They're getting old, and they know that. So it's really good to see, fresher ideas from these young guys. And just everyone was really passionate about it, and that was what made me very excited, because they know their console is not selling well. They know what they have to do to get people excited about it, and the fact that they still have people at the company that are excited about developing for it. Or it's good to see, and I think it's reassuring, and just for passion alone, I think that they win. So there's no real winner at E3. It's stupid that the fact that people kind of say that. In the end, everyone kind of wins, because it's like, look at all these amazing games we get to look forward to now.
Right, we win.
Yeah, exactly. The gamers always win. But yeah, I was impressed. I think I was kind of bummed. Square Enix had a pretty lackluster showing. They held off on Final Fantasy 15 again. They're probably waiting for TGS. But they did announce at their booth or a press conference or something that Type 0 is finally coming out in Europe and the US. And their sequel to that, which is like a mobile game, is going to be coming out here and in Europe as well. So those are both pretty exciting pieces of news, because those games have been out in Japan, I think, since like 2010 or 2011. And we've heard almost nothing. We've heard almost nothing about them. Type 0 came out on the PSP, and everyone was like, "Where is this game? Why isn't it coming out here?" And so they're finally doing it. I think it's going to be releasing. I think it's releasing on PS4, but it might be on PS3 as well. I'm not sure.
Cool, man.
So yeah, but I don't know. I was pleased overall of this year. I thought there was some really interesting things. That there were a few indie games that looked really interesting in the PlayStation 4 thing. And that Metal Gear Solid trailer, even though I had no idea what was going on, holy cow, man, it was just what a I need to play those games. I've only played the first one, so
oh my god!
You fuck!
You fuck!
So, man, it was just, yeah, it was that trailer was moving, and I didn't even know what was going on, really. So it was very, very good. But yeah, I don't know. I looked at it. So you said you had a Cliff Notes sum up.
Okay, so this is how it goes. So you've mentioned Nintendo and Sony, so I'll start with them. Just give my take. Nintendo had the best idea of how to do a presentation, especially Reggie going against Iwata at the beginning.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
and then a bonus having the robot chicken thing in there and kind of poking fun at trolls in the form of media. I feel it really benefits them having doing a Nintendo Direct versus a press conference, because there's nothing more terrible than watching people trying to phonetically repeat shit to appease the Western audience, right? So
Yeah.
it's good they saved themselves that embarrassment, because there's no need. It makes as much sense as us going to Japan and trying to go arigato mo shirito. Like it won't work. It's
Yeah.
they'll fucking see through us, you fraud. So the Yoshi, the look at the new Yoshi game looked really nice, but if it plays anything like the previous ones, it's pretty kiddie.
Mhm.
To talk about, I'm not gonna really get into any of the other things other than the Mario Maker. I just hope that's like DLC, that's like a fucking eShop purchase or something. 'Cause
Yeah,
that definitely doesn't deserve a full fucking retail price. But
I'm really glad that
go
that was
ahead.
that was the most subdued announcement. Like they just sort of
Oh yeah.
it just sort of happened, and I was really happy about that, because that to me shows that they're distancing themselves. They've themselves realized, like, holy cow, we've been like Mario the past 2 years, and people are kind of getting sick of it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. But their win was with Splatoon, and I'll tell you why. I was watching it with my girl. We're about to go out to shop, grab some stuff, and I couldn't believe she was even sitting next to me. She's like, she doesn't understand. Like, she looks at E3 in this from a very different perspective than we do. And she's like, what, like, what is the point of this consumerism shit, right? So I'm like, well, whatever. I kind of have to watch. I kind of have to be in the know. So we're watching the Nintendo one, and she was doing something on her phone. But when Splatoon came on, she watched the entire thing. And you know what she said? That looks really cool. And so that was, and as far as I'm concerned, that was Nintendo's biggest win, because they just got the attention of someone that never even would have considered, like playing a game on their system before. So that was a huge, in that little moment, that's a huge win for them in my eyes, because she can't be the only person that like would be that way towards video games. She plays them, but she's not, it's not like Mrs. Millennium, posting pictures of her conquests of Dragon Quest or anything like that.
Yeah.
So moving on to Sony. Sony, I feel, had the best lineup of all five, of the big three, and then the extended 5 pressers. They were really hitting it good, and then they just tripped and just got bogged down. Like,
it got really boring really fast.
They didn't need to talk about powers. I'm sure it's a great graphic novel. I'm sure it's going to be a great show. But they had nothing to show other than this gentleman in a suit talking and saying, hey, we haven't cast, we haven't done anything, but it's gonna, like, fuck off.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. Hey guys, it reminded me of Ridge Racer.
Yes.
And there was something else attached with him that was boring, but it was good to see the Arkham Knight. It was good to see Mortal Kombat. It was good to see that Little Big Planet looks as good as it does. The indie titles, obviously, Entwined looked a little more interesting than what critics are already giving it.
Yeah, that does look interesting. I agree.
I love No Man's Sky. Holy fuck, I've loved that since they premiered that at the VGAs in November.
Yeah. The one thing about that, I'm a little scared, just because it's a small dev team, and I'm just really, really frightened that it's just too ambitious for them. I mean, it has been in development for a long time, but at the same time, it's like, I really hope that they're not biting off more than they can chew, just because they've only done, like, what? There's
Joe Danger.
Yeah, Joe Danger is like one of the only things they've done. I think it looks very good and it looks very polished, but we haven't seen too much of it, and I'm looking forward to it for sure, but I am a little bit scared for them, for the team.
All I want from them is I can swim underwater, I can walk around on the ground, I can get in my spaceship, I can leave the planet, I can dogfight, and I can go to other planets. They're going to deliver on that, and that's all I need. Because I understand that is literally what I am expecting them to bring forth. If there is anything else, I'll be that much more happy. But like, one of the reasons why I like indie games is because they kind of do things at their own pace. and they price it accordingly. I just finished playing Lone Survivor. That's a game my clear time first playthrough was under 5 hours. I fucking loved it. So I just the fact that it is like with all this huge amount of money being into the Kickstarter that is Star Citizen, I'm liking the fact that a 4-man fucking team is putting together a project this impressive. So that's kind of like where I leave that. And then, and obviously the Order looked really fucking good. This is the best it's the best I've seen it, and it was kind of cool to see gameplay with that werewolf. But I wish it was gameplay, but at least it was in engine, and I'm hoping I'm not. Naughty Dog is not one to give us a misleading vertical slice like Ubisoft did with Watch Dogs and a bunch of other people did with their games. The Last of Us pretty much looked like the way that it was. It didn't really change and did great. So when it comes to Uncharted, that is the level of character design that I'm expecting to see. And before E3, I read rumblings that people got to see some shit that wasn't going to be on the floor, and they actually said that it was an embarrassment of riches. Like what the PlayStation, what they're already able to make it do, makes the competition look like they're stuck in the last gen. So, it's Naughty Dog, man. I'm looking forward to their shit. I've been a fan of them all last generation, and that's it. So, Sony best lineup, not the best presentation, whatever. Microsoft, I don't know if you guys kind of know my stance on Microsoft and what it's been the last while, because I've shit on them a lot, but I'll give them credit. They've cut the cancer that is Kinect. They focused on games.
Most improved award at PAX for sure.
Yes, exactly. With them, the problem is the Xbox One is still a platform that doesn't appeal to me, and I say that because of the 3 games that piqued my interest. One of them I'm going to be able to play on PlayStation 4, and that's whatever the new Tomb Raider game's going to be. So the creators of Limbo have a game called Inside, but it's a timed exclusive, not an exclusive. So the only game that I saw that's an exclusive, and then I'm going, fuck, is that, I don't even know what it's called. It's like Obe and the Magic something. It's an indie game. Everybody was pretty impressed with it. Fuck, man, I wish I would remember the name. But
I have to look into that.
Yeah, but it's literally it's an exclusive. It's kind of has hints of Miyazaki Dono's kind of character design and vibe, but very subtle. Kind of like the. Do you guys see Spirited Away?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh fuck. Okay, so you know that tall black kind of, I say black dude, but not like human.
No face?
You know what? No face, and just how he's wearing that mask.
Yeah.
One of the characters just kind of for a very brief second reminded me of that, and I put a smile on my face. So
nice.
So yeah, so that's that for Microsoft. Hey, congratulations. Sunset Overdrive is not fucking selling a system to me, nor is anything else that they showed to me. And Quantum Break, they've done a pass on that at E3, so there's one less reason, right? So we covered Nintendo, right? Yeah. So we covered the 3. So the two like gargantuan publishers, EA. I'm really happy for people that are into Mass Effect that there was a little sneak peek of the future of Mass Effect, and the fact that they're like actually proving that Mirror's Edge 2 is being made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got for EA. And and the whole of them showing like EA Sports UFC. Fuck them, because they make the game so much better than it fucking is. Played the demo. I used to be a huge MMA fan, and I was just so fucking underwhelmed at that game. They just made it ridiculously complicated for no reason. And it just completely took me out of the experience. So that was a game that I was literally going to get, and I'm not getting based off of the demo. And so that's it for EA. And then Activision, Valiant Hearts, The Great War, looked beautiful, very, it's unique. There's a story there. There's a nice art style. It's not a first-person shooter. And then first-person shooter-wise, Far Cry 4 looked pretty cool.
That did look cool.
I don't give yeah. I don't give a fuck about Assassin's Creed. I don't give a fuck about whatever, like literally whatever else they show, Rainbow Six, whatever the fuck it is. And I actually found the Activision presser to be the most offensive.
Ubisoft?
Because, oh my god, am I saying Activision? I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Ubisoft. Thank you. Ubisoft's presser was the most offensive because they showed the cool 5-minute opening of Far Cry 4, and then like the game developer came out and he's like, "You got your passport and that's it. And after that, you're fucked." I'm like, wow. And then the lady, that Amazon woman that does the voice of one of the characters on Archer, she like drops 3 swears in a minute. Like, you know what? I'm not going to say that I'm the most cleanly spoken person out there, but this isn't something that I would expect from a professional environment. So that took me completely out of it. So fail to them. Fail!
They've always done that. Like, I don't know, they try to be like edgy or something, and I can't stand Aisha Tyler. That's who they pick to do their stuff. Like, it goes back, like Mr. Caffeine back in, like, I think it was 2011. You know, they had that guy that was just like, he was trying so hard to be funny. He was like doing that doodly like thing to try to like cut away to like, it was just, it was awful.
All I could say is it's the first time I've watched the EA and Ubisoft pressers. Subsequently will be the last time that I watch the EA and Ubisoft pressers. Just didn't have the magic of last year. I actually had to go back and watch portions of Sony's E3 presser from 2013 to kind of raise some hairs in the back of my neck because it's just whatever, man. You know what? I already knew it. These companies showed up to this generation 2 to 3 years late, and they still were caught with their pants down.
Yeah.
Like, what are we looking at for exclusives this year? 2, 3. That's it.
Yeah, there's
so
not much.
We're leaning heavy on third party, and man, third parties don't sell systems unless you're going to get into like resolution and frame rate gate. So I don't know, man. You know what? Everybody thinks it's a fucking great time for video games. I don't think so, man. I just think it's if it wasn't for the indie scene, man, it would just be a gray and brown mess of corridors that you're looking at in a first-person perspective, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think it was overall a great showing, but at the same time, everything's 2015. Everything's 2015.
Yeah.
And that's a little disappointing. That there's nothing there that's coming out this year, really. I mean, like, I'm thinking Smash is about it that Nintendo had. It's great to see that. It's exciting to see that because that's gonna move units just like Mario Kart 8 has moved units. But at the same time, it's still like, it would be nice if you guys could put something out now.
Can I confess something to you guys?
Yes.
Can I confess something to you? So I don't have the Xbox One, and I also don't have a Wii U because I call that a fail from day one, and I would at this point I would buy it over the Xbox One because there is more games I'd want to play, but not just yet. But I got my PS4 at launch. A buddy of mine had an Amazon pre-order, and he ended up getting a pre-order somewhere else, so he gave me his pre-order, and that's how I happened to get it. And to be honest, played a bit of Resogun, and I really want to play Outlast, so I'm going to have to get to that soon. I played and cleared the mission, like the main mission of Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes. Not all the extra shit you can do, just the actual mission. At the end of it, you get the credits. And I'm keeping my eyes open for PS4 version of Tomb Raider, but other than that, that's pretty much all I've done since launch. When launch happened, I was able to get my hands on a lot of the games, and I was, very underwhelmed with everything. So, I have this beautiful fucking piece of hardware sitting front and center in my nice TV stand, and I have a dedicated Blu-ray player because of my kind of my audio video situation. I want I want 3D Blu-ray, but I also want lossless sound. And as good as my receiver is, it's pre-3D, so I had to work some magic. So I have a decent Blu-ray player. So my PS3 and my PS4, which were the former de facto players, are used exclusively for gaming now. I don't even need to fucking go on any of that shit for Netflix because that's shit straight from my TV. So I guess I'm a little disappointed that after last year, how Sony captured the community's collective imagination on how amazing it's going to be. Like, I'm not going to say they failed, but the system that I'm playing the most right now is my Vita.
Mm.
And the games that I'm playing are games that I'm getting from the Instant Game Collection, which is literally the best fucking, like, $50 I think I've ever spent towards this hobby of mine.
No, I agree, because like Resogun, that was one of the games I would have wanted to play with the PS4, but the library is just not there, at least for me, and is not into the current scene as I am. That's, from somebody like me, that's the reason I haven't gotten one. And with Nintendo, I mean, Mario Kart 8, that's good to hear that it's doing well now, but that just kind of goes back to just Nintendo being kind of stubborn. And I'd say that back to the 64 days. I mean, they finally kind of embraced online now. They're slowly releasing these titles, but Nintendo, ever since the 64, they've been banking on their first-party stuff. They don't have the third-party support as the Xbox One or PS4, but still, I think now that Mario Kart 8's coming out, all the announcements they made at E3, it's good, and it's a good second win to the community of gaming in general, but it's like once that dies down, where will things go? Because, like, even before the new current gen launch, there were thoughts of a crash coming, and maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know, but I think, like, especially with the Xbox One and PS4 launches, kind of the same thing you were saying, Terence. Like, after the launches, the hype died down, and now Nintendo's getting this hype, and hopefully things will level out or do well. But I mean, I think the indie scene might be the way of the future, but I don't know.
You got that right.
I watched Indie Game the movie today, actually. And it was
It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it quite a bit. It goes into it's about the dev processes behind Fez and Super Meat Boy. Primarily,
Yeah, I've seen that.
Jonathan Blow for Braid. He sort of is like, he's in there, but his is sort of more of an overview, because his game had already been a success at the time that the documentary was being made. So everything he says kind of offers a sort of an arc for the whole process. And yeah, it was really good, really really good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I mean, it was just it was really interesting, hearing you talk about like comments and stuff on for level 6 and things, and I was just thinking, because when Blow came out with Braid, one of the things he got into a depression after the game came out, and it was being received really well, but his problem with it was just that the vision that he had for the game and for people understanding it is that people weren't getting out of it what he wanted them to, and that's the thing that he felt that like his art wasn't reaching people, and like he felt that that's an extension of him, and he wasn't reaching people, and that really really got to him. But I think since so many people have played it, so many people have analyzed it finally, I think now there's so much of a better understanding of what that game is and what that game means, that I think he could probably rest easy now. And I still haven't heard much about The Witness. I suppose that's supposed to be coming out later this year. I think PS4 Steam exclusive, I think.
Yeah.
And definitely interested to see where that goes, because that's sort of like harkens back to Myst, I think, is kind of his inspiration for that one. So.
And it's the Myst we always wanted, like back from the beginning. We're like, oh, this looks amazing, but imagine if we could move in this.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. But it was really interesting, the film, and seeing the turmoil that Phil Fish went through for his 5 years on Fez, or however many years he spent on that. Legal trouble, him just as a perfectionist going back and changing the game internally. Like he said, he changed it 3 or 4 times the whole game. He just like changed it around just because he was so close to it, that it consumed him. And yeah, it was very, very good, very interesting to see the different personalities of these, of the people of team Meat, and then the guy who did Phil Fish, who worked on Fez. So really good film. So
No, I'm gonna check that out, man. Because another thing that just made me think of like all these, like ultimately, like even in even games like Braid or Fez, Super Meat Boy, Lone Survivor, all these games, even though it's primarily made by one guy, there's still other people that help in some capacity. But that being said, it's the purest form of game making, man. It's like it was when fucking guys were coding for Atari in their garages.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think, sorry, I want to get this out really quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think my biggest problem with games now, and I don't want to say I'm a little disillusioned, but quite frankly, like I don't give a fuck about most of the franchises, and then everything's a franchise. I think it's Ubisoft said that they will not release a game that they don't feel will make a franchise, and so all these decisions are made by fucking focus group testing, bro mentality, like like boardroom decisions, and like I used to love video games, and I still do. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to stuff that's coming out now, I pay much closer attention to the little games, because there are so few games. There's so few developers like Naughty Dog that could still make a quality product and ultimately not be affected to the extent that others are. Like you look at fucking Call of Duty, man. Like I used to like Call of Duty back when it was in the World War II era.
Yeah.
But
see, that's what and that was sort of what I got on the Medal of Honor kick, is because these games used to be about something. I felt like there was something they were celebrating. I mean, you see them using old war footage. Sometimes there was one of the games, it was European Assault, I think, had like interviews with guys who were there, and it was really, it was something. It was a celebration, in a sense of the heroism and and the sacrifice that these men went through, 70 years ago now, and now it just, as entertaining as some of them can be. Like I really like Black Ops a lot, but besides that, I mean, I just can't get interested in any of it, honestly. I just cannot. I just can't care. Like for whatever reason, I'm someone who loves stories in video games, but for some reason, I can't bring myself to really care about the story in Call of Duty.
It's just bullshit.
It's exactly. It's complete.
Well, no,
shit.
it is complete shit. They've got a monopoly on that gameplay, because all it is they just keep pumping out the same game over and over again. Sure, they've got buffs, they've got enhancements, but it's all about the multiplayer. And the thing is, once the new one comes out, they're going to close the servers for the old one. Plus, the mentality of kids today want the newest, best thing. That's the thing. If a new one comes out, everybody's going to jump on board that one. Even the previous generation, the previous title of the series, you're not going to have as many people online. Plus, by that time, people are going to hack the shit out of it. It's not going to be fair anyway. So they keep pumping out the same thing. They got a monopoly on it. All you're paying for is the servers online. Plus, the single-player experience, it's not about that. It's all about the multiplayer. They're going to throw money at Kevin Spacey to make him relevant and, try to beef up that aspect of the gameplay. It doesn't matter. I mean, the franchises, Naughty Dog's got a good grasp on the franchises and sequels mentality, but back to the indies. They take the time and they actually consider it, art, like a medium. Like I said, like, you can get Blu-rays, DVDs, or you can get a PS3 disc, which happens to be a Naughty Dog game. And even the indie market, I mean, you look at just Fez and Super Meat Boy, those are just simplistic games. Super Meat Boy is the skill and evolution of a platformer, and Fez is like a whole new approach, the creative aspect to that platformer. And like Terence was saying about board meetings and focus groups, look at Resident Evil 6. I mean, that was a game that didn't know what it wanted to be. It was trying to be too mainstream, too blockbuster. And to me, they fucked up the gameplay itself by trying to tweak it. Resident Evil 5, people don't like that one, but at its core, it was an HD co-op version of 4, which I did like. And even though the storyline was shit, it was campy as hell. It's still horrible, but even I can appreciate it now with Wesker, global saturation, Ouroboros. I mean, shit, if they ever cast him in the film, get fucking Jack Palance CGI as Wesker,
Oh my god, that's amazing. What an amazing idea.
You see, Resident Evil 6, the thing that pissed me off the most, well, besides if the gameplay wasn't there, if the gameplay would have been there, I could have put up with the bullshit storyline. But since it wasn't there, the bullshit's gates started to flood, and I just, it was always overwhelmed. But it was all bullshit. I mean, because even they should have taken, even you take Sheva, whatever you want to call her from Resident Evil 5. Sure, people don't like that narrative, they don't like that gameplay. At least put her character in there as the evolution of the BSAA. Instead, they introduced new characters. They wasted opportunity, because this was supposed to be the first time Chris and Leon met up. You could have brought in Claire. Instead, they introduced new characters. They brought in Wesker's son out of nowhere, and it was all bullshit. If the gameplay didn't click, it just didn't click. But yeah, I want to see CGI Jack Palance now. That's a good idea.
Oh my god.
I do disagree a little bit with Bots on this, because I really enjoyed the game. I do see it's a flawed game. It's not a perfect game by any means. I really, I enjoyed the story for what it was. It's not great. The Resident Evil games story, as entertaining and as much as I love them, I don't think.
They've gone to shit. They've gone to shit since Resident Evil 0. That's why I hated that. And Terrence knows about my fantasy with Rebecca Chambers, smoking those green herbs, listening to Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Oh my god!
And trying to make love, then make a run for it, get the hell out of the mansion. But Resident Evil 0 was the start.
Stay in the room. Stay in the room.
If I gotta be damned, I want to be damned. Dancing through the night with you. That would be my pickup line on her.
That'd be fucking legit, man. You know what's my problem with Resident Evil? Like, I loved 4. Resident Evil 4 for the previous generation was my game of the generation. I love that game.
Terrence, real quick. I hate to interrupt you. We'll go right back into it, but I just remember one of the things I wanted to ask you from the last podcast. You mentioned that you had done something online for the hand cannon walkthrough. Now here's my question. Did you actually upload a save file, or did you put in an FAQ of how to achieve the hand cannon?
No. If you go online to, well, I don't think GameShark shit exists anymore, but GameSaves.com, any of that stuff, the GameCube game save for the hand cannon, I put that there.
Okay.
It's mine.
Okay.
The month of my fucking life.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to say, because I remember the last podcast you mentioned that, and I agreed. I said I used it, but in reality, I did not. I looked up the FAQ on how to achieve it, because I spent hours in Mercenaries. So I just wanted to say I earned that shit.
Good for you, man. Good for you. But you know what? It's not. To be able to do that was no small feat, man. It was a month of my gaming life to do that.
It was a month of mine with many green herbs. But it was worth it, dude. The fact the Mercenaries, dude, one shot popping them in the head, then getting hunk and going behind and snapping that neck. Woo! It's just
it was hot, man. It was fun. It was addictive,
It was.
But when it comes to Resident Evil, like the biggest problem, and I'll tell you when things really ran off the rail, it wasn't Resident Evil 6 with its fucking very loose. The control was very loose and it was very convoluted, and they were trying to make it too many different things.
So
and it just, I know Chrono's gonna blow your fucking mind, but I've had a lot of time to sit on Resident Evil and 6, and I played a lot of games that I had missed that year. That fucking game wouldn't even make top 10. It was terrible. Like, But where everything went wrong for them, horribly wrong, was the criticism that that Capcom got after they released their first trailer for Resident Evil 5. They were accused of being racist, which I'm not going to cut corners. Japanese people are. But when Resident Evil 4 came out, the Spanish community was not up in arms because you were killing Spaniards left, right, and center. Because even though they didn't identify it as, it was fucking Spain. They took,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah.
Hate to be the one to say that, but it was Spain. So obviously racism, the situation that there's still, there's still residual undertones from, from decades and centuries past. But you know what? If you're going to be in Africa, and unless you're in South Africa, or unless you're in the extreme north, like Egypt, whatever, yes, the majority of people that you will come across will be black. And that is okay. Like, for me, I don't care enough to be racist. Like, when I see a person, I don't identify them as a black or a Hispanic or a white or, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Middle Eastern, whatever, because I don't care. I don't like them on general principle because they're human beings, and I don't like people. Period.
You remind me that, like, my friend Josh would say the exact same thing. It's like he'd say, like, I couldn't care less, or I couldn't give two tugs of a dead dog's cock. Would be the line he'd use.
I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Needs to be horse's cock.
Oh yeah, Freddy got fingered here.
Daddy, would you like some sausage?
That movie is. I only watched clips from it, and I'd never want to see it.
How did you see those clips again? Thanks to me. But yeah, you don't need to be exposed to that though. But have you seen it, Terrence? You've seen it, haven't you?
Oh fuck! I've seen Freddy got fingered twice, man. I laughed.
I bought you these jewels.
When he's jerking off the horse, when he sees the horse getting jerked off at the beginning, was fucking. Yo, man, I practically crashed, and I was sitting in my couch. So, getting back to what I'm saying, for me, I always judge people on an individual level. I kind of take I've inadvertently have taken the Martin Luther King approach. You judge people by who they are, not by what they look like.
Exactly. If you're an asshole, you're an asshole. That's
right.
But
it holds, and I kind of shake my head and snicker now that people can judge someone by the way they look. No, you're going to judge someone, you're going to judge them on their own merit. If they're a fucking asshole or this or that, they got to earn that. If they're a nice person, they got to earn that too.
You see, that's the thing. It's like, I think a lot of people with Resident Evil 5 is they really don't know why it's racist. Because you get the whole mentality of, it's a white man going into Africa and blowing the shit out of black people. Not blowing them orally, but, with weapons and guns. The thing is...
I love how you had to specify that.
I wanted to specify that. But the thing is, it's not that. It's the fact that they were racist in a sense cosmetically. And let me explain. It's like, it's the fact they were in Africa. And I'll tell you, this is a slight against the game, because, I like the game online co-op HD. It's got the feel of 4 gameplay-wise. It's got a better swapping out of the weapons on the fly. But the thing is, the first time, even every time I play through Resident Evil 1 again, I take the time to go through and read the journals that people left behind, Itchy, Scratchy, all that shit. You read, you get into it. Resident Evil 5, and even 4 to an extent, I don't read shit that I find on replay throughs, especially 5. I just blaze through the game and have fun with it. The thing is when the Africans were exposed to the Ouroboros, or whatever the thing was, is that they degraded or de-evolved or whatever you want to call it, and they went back to making tribes and dressing in tribal garb, and it was all cosmetically, and that was a slight against I guess Africans to me, instead of just the violence that it happened to be, like you said, Resident Evil 4 was in Spain, this one was in Africa, but the fact they went that extra mile and they're going to be wearing their headdresses and all this crap again just for the cosmetic of a level, which ultimately didn't pay off to the narrative or the storyline or anything else. Like I said, the best thing, the campy whisker, Jack, you are my number one guy.
I just see, the thing is that, like, I think it's sort of like, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you to an extent. it's just the way that the parasite kind of works on hive mentality. So if you go to the extreme of that, like, I guess, what are you gonna do when, when this, the parasite's working in you and you're drawn all together to follow the leader, the queen, essentially. So you'd all band together, and I don't think it had to go as far as, hey guys, so we should go back. We should go way back, and let's don our tribal garbs and go off into the wilds.
Yeah, I agree, Chrono. But the thing is, it's like
it didn't have to do that.
A lot of the times is you're not even going to enter an argument with people, because there's even people I respect gaming wise that don't like Resident Evil 4 because it's not traditional zombies, which to me, like I said, it all goes back to the gameplay, especially the siege mentality. I mean, who gives a shit if they're not zombies? The fact they aren't zombies gives that siege feel of Assault on Precinct 13, which if anybody hadn't seen it, definitely watch that. It's an excellent John Carpenter film. And anybody that listens to this podcast knows my favorite film is Big Trouble in Little China, which, Chrono, you need to watch.
There's so many things. You just overwhelm me with these things, and it's just like, yo, man, I have a limited amount of hours.
I want to finish my point about Resident Evil 5 before I forget it. And this is funny because I was going through my PlayStation. I was making a little room because I downloaded Ni no Kuni. There was a sale last week, and I got it for $5. So I had to do that. So anyways, I was looking at stuff to get rid of, and I went into the videos, and I only had 2 videos on the hard drive. One of them was Wipeout HD, which I have Wipeout HD on PlayStation 3, and since I have Wipeout 2048 on the PS Vita, I also have the Wipeout HD and Wipeout Fury add-on packs. So there's no real reason why I should have the trailer, but I do because I love it because it's like this pumping soundtrack and it just gets you going like, yeah, man, fucking Wipeout. So the other one was Resident Evil 5, and it was the reveal trailer, and it was fantastic. There was no Sheva. Fuck Sheva. She fucked me up so many times. I'm not a fan of her. But it was just Chris. It was very like, it was almost depressing. He's like, like he's questioning himself at the beginning. He's like, what the fuck am I even still doing fighting? And then it was like a lot of cool things that didn't unfortunately make it into the game. And I would really implore people to watch that original trailer to see what Resident Evil 5 is supposed to be like. Now, I want to, and that is the Resident Evil I want to play, right? So to address the tribal garb, when I first saw that, because like anybody that knows me knows that I don't spoil games. If I like that, I can't even tell you if I've seen another trailer for Resident Evil 5, even after playing the game, other than the first one. But when I saw we're in the jungle and we saw the guys with the loincloths and whatnot, I laughed because I'm not sure, because I see it and immediately a spear is being thrown at me. So I'm like, oh my god, like really, like did they sit down in creative and was there like, I was trying to think of how the circumstances went together. So okay, so like they either had to completely not think that this would offend people, or they didn't care. And maybe one of their employees was a little savvy with English and savvy with racial slurs, because when I saw them, I laughed. I'm like, oh my god. Someone pitched the idea of the quote-unquote spear chucker, which is a derogatory term, right? But I could think of nothing else because I'm literally seeing a spear being chucked in my direction. So I kind of groaned a bit, but like the way I play these games is I got over that kind of weirdness almost immediately, and then I'm just trying to not get killed because I want to advance in the game. But I think that, and I'm going to segue this into something after, but Capcom buckled. Like I don't think we should have had the tribesmen. Even with the notes that explained it, it was a bit of a tough sell. I would have preferred that not to have been the case. I would have preferred I would have preferred to, as opposed to having Sheva as a co. I like the idea in theory of like a co-op experience, but I think that would have been better as after you clear the game. Guys, if you remember Resident Evil, you had 2 playable characters. Resident Evil 2, you had 2 playable characters with 2 scenarios each.
Mm-hmm.
That was the game where they could have returned to. You start the game, you pick Sheva, and you go through her campaign, or you pick Chris and you go through his campaign. And then they would have had the cool thing where you could play together, play with your buddy online, whatever, right? So what ended up happening is after the backlash of criticism over some of the questionable and accusatorily overt racial content in the game, they added more diversity into the zombie hordes, which I found laughable because anybody that knows geography, world politics, what's happening in the emerging nations of Africa knows that, with the exception, like I said, with the exception of South Africa and a couple of the very northernmost parts,
Mm-hmm.
that is a black-centric continent.
Yeah.
So to have that many non-black people was comical. Like I would expect to see the odd Caucasian or Asian or whatnot, because I would be thinking of NGOs, non-government organizations that would kind of be there helping out this or that, like helping them with water purification or helping them to build, to enable them for them to build infrastructure and stuff. So I would expect to see some diversity, but the amount of diversity they threw it was the ultimate cop out, and it killed it for me. It kind of took me out of the experience, and it made me, despite Capcom's short-sightedness with some of the choices that they made, and the tribal thing, I think, was one of the worst offenders. At least they had a moment that was hidden, unfortunately, but at the very beginning of the game, if you don't walk forward into the village, and if you walk backwards and you're confronted with that big gate, Chris has a couple of interesting lines that actually addresses imperialism and colonialism. And I found that an interesting touch, but I wish that would have been a little more prevalent. The segue in terms of not sticking to your guns, whereas Capcom's, it would have been questionable because whatever, man, you can't get away from the tribesmen. It's pretty in poor taste as far as I'm concerned. But with another publisher not sticking to their guns is Konami, because they were going to publish a game called 6 Days in Fallujah, and that was based off of a more recent military situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it was made with collaboration of survivors. It was of the Fallujah incident. It was made with the endorsement of the families of the fallen soldiers. It was made with a lot of care, and they treated it seriously. They didn't treat it like Call of Duty. They didn't glorify the violence. It was a horrible moment. It was a horrible moment in American military history. It's you get those every once in a while where something happens, and it's pretty important. And I really felt that it was brave that a production house would want to tell that story.
Yeah.
And I felt that would have brought great honor to the soldiers, both surviving and deceased, to have that represented in a way, because it was very forward thinking to convey it in that. If that was a movie, it'd be no problem. But since it was a video game, and since it was recent, and it was factual, there was a huge clash against Konami, and they fucking dropped it like a hot potato. And I was so disappointed, man. Like there's an internet show called Thank you. Extra credits.
Love them.
I used to love them. I haven't watched them in a couple of years. I felt they kind of got away from what made them great and why I watched them. So I don't know if they've returned to former glory, but that was in terms of anybody that is interested in video games as a cultural form of expression, I think that episode of Extra Credits is one of, if I was to devise a course on video game culture and history, that would be a prerequisite viewing for anyone that would take that course. Because I was, you look in retrospect to things that you experienced then, and then you even kind of look back and you're like, oh, this is bad. But reflecting on it years and years later, it had a subtle but much larger impact in terms of how video games are taken, as a quote unquote art form, as some people would like them to be. But censorship like that, little self-censorship, Konami draw, they didn't want it, whatever, that was their decision, that they have shareholders to speak to. But video games are ever going to move forward, man. They got to start taking risks. And if everybody involved, that they were very respectful with the families and with the survivors, and if they were endorsing it, who the fucker is anyone else to say that it is in poor taste?
Yeah, really.
And that, it blows my mind, man.
Yeah.
It really does.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, definitely risks need to be taken. And even as I said before, I'm not knocking Nintendo or trying to underplay their current success, but it's the same thing. It's like Mario Kart 8. That could have been made years ago. And, just the fact that it's finally in HD, finally. I'm sure Mario Kart Wii had some online playability, but probably this one's tweaked up a little bit more. But it's just the fact that the Wii U in general is considered more like a past generation console. And sure, the games are going to sell the system, and rightfully so. They're going to be good games. But the thing is that it seems like Nintendo's taking their time on some things, and that they are, especially companies like Nintendo and Capcom, they might not be in such good shape financially. And it just seems like once the hype dies down for certain things, like I was saying earlier, the system launches for the Xbox and PS4. Once those things die down, they might not. Things might get a little stale again. And once, I don't know. I'm just saying these boosts of hype are good, but the same thing. What's the longevity for them until we end up that rut again where people are like, what am I buying? I'm buying the same thing over and over again. Are the next-gen consoles really next-gen? Does it really suffice to buy these new systems? And hopefully, I don't know, we'll see.
No, we will. The great thing you brought up there is it even worth buying? The problem with systems now is they're fucking, I applaud, I'm not a fan of the game and I'm not going to buy it, but I applaud EA for making the UFC game PS4 and Xbox One only. Ubisoft is, in my opinion, the worst offender for releasing games. They put Watch Dogs on everything, and one would wonder how much better that game would have been if their focus was a little more streamlined to 2 systems versus 4 or 5 because of the PC, right?
And see, that's the thing. Even sorry to cut you off, but with Watch Dogs, real quick, I was just going to say, originally that was one of the biggest hype games for the next-gen consoles. And even now, I didn't even know it was for all the systems. I haven't kept up with it. The only thing I've kept up with is that I hear is that apparently it supports hacking, and people are worried about that. But yeah, back when these systems were released, I remember Watch Dogs was one of the premier titles to get next-gen. But
yeah, and it held, I read or heard this somewhere that it held a lot of weight, because fucking no one was doing anything, and Watch Dogs was unveiled, I think it was at D3 2012, this is the next generation. This is what shit's going to look like in the future. But I feel that we're on borrowed time right now. We're kind of talking about there's worry about a crash, but video games been stagnant for years, and aside from indie developers, there are very, very, very few AAA publishers that will release a product that isn't in stagnation. I mean, if video games have gone through Chrono, man, well, what are we in? Gen 8, Gen 9? What do they call this?
This is Gen 8 now, yeah.
Okay, so according to that, this is the 8th generation of video game hardware that we've dealt with, but for the most part, we're still dealing with first or second generation programming and kind of game mechanics and structure. What one company that we didn't talk about when we were talking about companies that do it right and they take their time making sequels and don't Maddenize this fucking Rockstar.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna make reference to Vice City. If you listen to the radio, I love listening to the radio, like primarily for the commercials in Grand Theft Auto games.
Mhm.
And in Vice City, they had commercials for video games on a fictitious system, and it was always like, you know, defend the green dot with the red square, or, you know, like kill you know, like, you know, kill the red square with your green square. So it's so if you, I think the comment that they're making is they're saying that, like, you know, I found that funny. It was very meta, where they're kind of acknowledging the fact that video games have gone nowhere, because most of them is still ones and zeros. Okay, there is an enemy. You have to eliminate the enemy. That's removing the enemy.
Mhm.
And so that's the reason why I like indie games, is because they're people that are sick of fucking the status quo and games being developed in boardrooms. But
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
the
think,
you know,
problem is,
I think one of the best things, one of my favorite things in Indie Game the movie, and you know, obviously I don't entirely agree with you know, everything they say, because I do like AAA blockbuster games, but it was just great. One of the Team Meat guys, it wasn't Ed McMillan, but it was the other guy, Tommy, I think, something. He was just saying, like, he was saying something to the effect of, like, you can like, he was saying something like, you can like games like Call of Duty and stuff, but I just think they're fucking terrible. That's what he was like. They're just horrible games, and I want to make good games, something that I'll be proud of. And these big blockbuster games, he's like, I could never do that. And then Phil Fish said something to the effect of, like, you know, it's really stressful being an independent developer, you know, because I'm so close to the project. But I could never go work. I could never go work at, like, Epic. I could never go work at Activision, because he said it'd be fucking hell. It would be hell for him. He would not. He couldn't stand it. And it was really interesting to see, like, that to me is true passion, when you're so dedicated to your own work that nothing else is important except producing you out there on the screen. So it's just, you know, it's interesting to, you know, to hear that.
And we need more of that. We need more accountability. So I don't know about you guys, but each passing year, man, I'm becoming a little less interested in what's coming out.
No, I've
You
been
know,
there.
like,
I've been there,
Yeah,
because think of it this way.
you've been there for
Yeah,
sure.
Chrono knows I've been there, because, like, now, especially since I entered the retro market, I would rather wait. There's an entire back catalog of games that will suffice. I don't have to buy another next gen system, as far as I'm concerned. Really, I mean, sure, there is the urge and there are temptations there, but for the most part, like you were saying earlier, like the green dot, red dot, it all goes back to your fundamentals of controls of gameplay. Most games
Yeah.
now are cutscenes and load times and whatnot, but I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking first-person shooters. To each their own. The fact of the matter is, I have no interest in buying a next-gen console. This past year, I bought a Neo Geo, and I bought games for it. Now, the AES, very cheap AES games, but the consoleized MVS. But the thing is, even if you want to take that in consideration of price, it's still a lot cheaper than me going out and buying a $600 console with games to boot. Even some of the games are cheaper than their $60 current release titles. And that just goes to prove, because the 16-bit era is my preferred choice of games in general. And the fact is, even like Green Dot, Red Dot, Neo Geo is kind of the pinnacle of sprite-based graphics and gameplay. But the thing is, that gameplay, it's not 3D, but it's still more enticing. It proves that it's not like, oh, I'm just hooked on the Genesis and hooked on the Super Nintendo. I actually prefer that era. Yeah, even for games I have no nostalgic value for. I would rather this next gen, the PS4, even the PS3 to a degree, let them go by, and then I'll be able to research and know which gems specifically to look for. Because if I'm not invested like the Call of Duty people with the current online servers, if I'm just looking for a gameplay experience to boot, there's no reason for me to jump on board. Plus, the way these new releases go, Watch Dogs, if I wait 6 months, it'll probably be $20,
Yeah.
if not cheaper. There's no reason for me to be invested. That's the reason I really didn't watch E3, although, like, the Legend of Zelda game definitely piques my interest. Metal Gear, I haven't played Ground Zeroes, my PS3 to shit the bed, but I am going to get invested in that. I don't mean to derail too much, Terrence. Are you a big Metal Gear Solid fan?
I played the first one, played and cleared the first one on PlayStation 1, and the remake on GameCube. I played the second one on PlayStation 2, and I'm gonna revisit the remake of that at some point. I unfortunately couldn't really get into Part 3, and Part 4, for the love of fucking Christ, is one of the first PlayStation 3 games I bought, and I still haven't played. But that being said, like I really liked Metal Gear Solid 1 because especially how they ended it, and it was kind of like they had a really like good message about like, like the world and the environment and responsibility, which was something new at the time in video games. It came out in 98 or so, 98, 99, I think 98.
97, 98, right.
90, yeah, somewhere around there. And that was kind of like, like the end credits was this beautiful song, and it was just like fucking video of nature, of polar bears and shit, and just kind of like, wow, man, it's like, yeah, we gotta fucking, it kind of makes you think outside. The best video game is the one that makes you think about it when you're not playing it, and then it invites you to think about things not associated directly with it,
Mm-hmm.
But what the fuck was the question again?
I was just asking how much of a fan you were of the series, but
okay, so what I was gonna say is, as much as I like Metal Gear Solid, and like I have a bit of an affinity to Kojima, even though he's a fucking pervert. Like I love Snatcher, and I tolerated Police Knots. I wish I would have loved it, but I didn't. But actually,
you can actually grab girls' asses in that one, can't you?
And boobs and watch. It's
jeez, yikes.
you just see the boob jiggle and whatever. It's just tasteless juvenile shit that I probably would have loved when I was 15, but that stuff doesn't fly now. But Metal Gear, as much as I like it, and much as I like the fact that fucking dude won't release the game until he is satisfied that it's ready, it made me fall in love with the Splinter Cell series. So I enjoy the gameplay of Splinter Cell more than I do the gameplay of Metal Gear Solid. That being said, I was very happy with Ground Zeroes, and I am looking forward to stabbing hundreds of people in the throat come the Phantom Pain.
Nice. So what were we even talking about before? I remember we was talking about the Neo Geo for a second, but
no, yeah, we're just kind of talking about the state of video games, and kind of like how it's just like everything. It's become so mechanical, so routine, so corporate, so and I feel bad. I was at a it's funny how much I shit on Microsoft, but they're the ones that I fucking end up going to their events, because Sony Canada has zero fucking presence. Microsoft, they want to keep you in the loop. They want to engage you. Not only did I have like a VIP invitation to the Canadian launch, or at least the Toronto launch of Xbox One, but I also had the opportunity to go to the Xbox One media event that happened a couple of weeks before, and I actually talked to a gentleman. I hate to be vague, but he opened up to me when I told him that I'm not writing anything down, and I'm not gonna share this conversation. Like, this is literally a conversation. He just started talking to me. I'll tell you, he is involved in game making, and I'll leave it at that. But when this guy knew that I wasn't some fucking sleazy reporter, or like some fucking, yo man, you gotta see some of these YouTube fucking idiots at these things. They're so Mickey Mouse. They're trying to do like, oh, here we are at the Xbox One media event in Toronto, blah blah blah, and then they try to interview people. You know what? That's what fucking PAX is for. That is what E3 is for. Right. This was in a small 2-story venue. You're there, have a couple of drinks, play some fucking games. If you're lucky enough to talk to a developer a creative director, so be it. Like there's, you're there as media to facilitate you being able to have a little hands-on experience with their upcoming console, right?
Okay.
So, and I just laugh at that. I laugh at the Mickey Mouse aspect of it. I go to these things and I do none of it. I do none of it. I just check stuff out, and I end up getting a conversation with this one dude, and just listening to the shit that he talked about, and listening to the frustration in his voice, just from a development standpoint of what they're told they can't and can't do, and the reason why they can't do stuff is the Madden approach. It's because, well, we can't put everything into one game, because what are we going to put into the next game?
They'll learn. I mean, that mentality is going to bite them in the ass eventually. Because the thing is, I'll go ahead.
No, this is very quick. Yes, it should. The issue is this has been the most successful fucking launch of any generation. But that is the mentality that they have. So it's fine. I'm waiting for it to catch up. I really am.
I didn't realize this was the most successful launch, but damn, that's scary right there. Because
that is to me, because it's like, where are the games?
I wasn't hoping of a crash, more of a renaissance type of thing, because Nintendo's doing good now, but Nintendo, they're game makers. Mario Kart 8's probably a damn good game. I like 7. I mean, the games are ultimately going to push the systems and everything, but if they're going for these blockbuster mentalities, and it's going to spread thin the budgets. So that's the thing. It's all about the budgets, and it's all about it's like Hollywood. It's just too much. The amount of money that goes into the development of all these games is fucking ridiculous. And just the fact is that if they don't do good in these initial months and everything, it's just a damn downward spiral this bad, because you're going to miss out on just core games. I mean, like you just said, Maddens, they're going to keep pumping those out. They have to make sure those are successful. They have to make sure everything else is successful. And the funny thing is, we talked about this, and I'm not sure how much relevant this actually is, but even back to the Nintendo, before they had the third-party, stranglehold, you'd look at Zelda 2, Mario 2. At least they tried to go in different directions. But then it seemed like that bit them in the ass because people wanted more of the same thing back then. And that's why those games were considered black sheeps back then. More people appreciate them now, but at least they did try to go in different directions before rehashing the same shit over and over again.
See, and that to me is the JRPG double standard, because, people shit on Final Fantasy 13 all the time because it's not like all the other Final Fantasy games. You're walking in a straight line. I don't care about the story. The battle system sucks. All this other stuff, And, I mean, I have to at least, okay, I love the game, so that I'm a little bit biased, but, like, from just a design standpoint, you have to at least hand it to the Square Enix that they try something new with every single one of their Final Fantasy games, even dating back to the 80s and 90s. There was a lot more limitation on what you could do with old RPGs. A lot of it was, a lot of the battles there were, they couldn't help but be turn-based, just because that was where the technology was. But at the same time, they were still trying to push the envelope a little bit. Final Fantasy II has, kind of a Elder Scrolls version leveling up. The more you use something, the more that levels up. Final Fantasy III had jobs. Final Fantasy IV had more of a focus on story rather than just getting to the end and fighting the bad guys. 5 had some of the most complicated. I don't even understand the class system in that. It's very, very complex. 6 had non-linear narrative. You could play the game in kind of any story order you want in a way. You could choose. There was branching story paths, I guess is what I'm saying. And then 7 brought it to 3D. You had 3D version. You had different mechanics and stuff. So it's like they try to do that with every one of their games, and just because one of them doesn't hit as well, it doesn't. I don't. It's weird because everyone wants it to be like that. Still,
because everybody has their own vision of what it should be.
Right, and I don't.
I'm glad they made 3 parts of that game for all the haters out there, because I mean, I'm not saying it's shoving it down their fucking throat, but there are people out there like you that do appreciate that game, and it's the same thing that it's not It's not the same thing rehashed. It didn't fall victim to the Madden or Call of Duty, trend, and it didn't fall victim to the Resident Evil 6 trend because Resident Evil 6 was basically conformed. It was made into something. It was a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
It was something that they wanted it to be this big blockbuster, and they compromised too many things trying to make it something we thought we would want.
Can I ask a question, Chrono?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Since you're such a fan of the Final Fantasy series, good for you, by the way. I'm not as big of a fan, but I have appreciated some games over the years. So as a real fan, I consider you a real fan because you're able to break down those games. I've never heard anyone break the games down like that. What is your feeling? I'm not going to ask if you want it to come out or not, but what is your feeling on the constant and persistent begging for a remake of Final Fantasy VII, considering the fact that in a post 9/11 world, some of the shit that they get up to in terms of that power plant,
terrorism,
yeah,
terrorism. That is what is
terrorism.
happening at the beginning of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, are you of the mindset that, oh my God, we need the Final Fantasy VII remake, or are you kind of like the other end of it? It's like, fuck, man, just continue making Final Fantasy VII games. We don't need to rehash. Because I know they've remade 10 and 10-2 and whatnot, but it's kind of like I almost feel that personally, Final Fantasy VII, it was a quintessential moment in game history.
Yes.
It was the changing of the guard. It was opening eyes to JRPGs. The people had never played it before, and it did it in a way that made it exciting. To people on the inside that may not have given it a chance because it was a little more accessible because of the graphics and the presentation and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel, and I know they did that tech demo for whatever, but I almost feel that at this point, and especially because of the terrorism thing, they'd be fucking hard. That would be a touchy subject anyway. They broach it, but I kind of feel that it would cheapen the game if they remade it.
See, yeah, I've thought about this a lot over the years, and because honestly, actually, before I even played it, I was like, why don't they remake it? It looks awful. Because the game, parts of it have aged really nicely, some parts haven't. But I appreciate the game for what it is, as you said, like a quintessential moment in gaming. Going back and playing it, I played through the whole thing. It was my junior year of college. I played the whole thing my first semester, and getting a whole grasp of everything about that game. There are things in that game, like you said, terrorism, and there's also cloud cross-dressing, that would be much harder to get across when you make the game look really nice. The game has a very comical feel at times. The game has a quirkiness about it. There's
a fantasy feel, if you were.
Yeah. It has like the Honeybee Manor thing, where it's basically like a fetish, whorehouse essentially, where like you could peek in the rooms and see like there's like S&M stuff going on in one room, and there would be no way they could put that in the game, like in an aesthetic that's more realistic, like what people want. It would be a lot harder to retain a teen rating and have that stuff in the game looking realistic, unless they bastardized it, which would make me really sad. Because again, those things are part of what gives the game its charm, in a way. As much as I would like to see it, I think in this particular instance, I think you should just leave art the way it is and not do anything to it.
What'd you tell George Lucas that?
Yeah, seriously. I think in some instances, like you see the 10 remake, I think that can be really nice when you can go in and change parts of a game and make it look nicer to appeal to a modern aesthetic. I think that's fine. once you start getting back far enough where it's harder to do that, and where you would have to consider, okay, we have to probably edit this here, and going back and doing that, I think you should sort of just let it be, to a certain extent. The Ocarina of Time 3D remake, that is the definitive version of that game now. It's just spectacular what they did with it. That being said, that to me is, they didn't really change much about the whole game. They because there wasn't content that would by nature have to be changed. In talking about Final Fantasy VII, I think it's too much of a nightmare, and I think that they realized that to go back to that game, to spend how many years in development they'd have to spend remaking it, for a game that sure it would sell, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, what if it didn't? It's still a risk that they'd have to take. It's like, it would sell, but then again, what if it didn't go over as well as, and I don't know if it's worth the effort, because I still think the game is just absolutely fine the way it is. I loved my experience with it. I thought it was, it was one of the best games I've ever played. There's a lot of games I say that about, but it, looking back in like it's a beautiful capture of what 1997 was, and what people were experiencing for the first time. And I don't know. I don't really want that to go away. I don't think so.
It needs to be respected in that sense.
Yeah.
Because even before the 64 and the PS1, like I said, going back earlier about sprite-based graphics, I mean, you get that 3D template, and really since the PS1, that was the new era of gaming, where you get the 3D engines, and everything's just improving upon that. Whether it be memory, music, speech, graphics, this is the same shit, just more and more fine-tuned. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, sure, Metal Gear 1 didn't age as well, Final Fantasy VII might not have aged as well, but it's still that time in history, that art. Sure, it'd be nice to clean them up, but like you said, with censorship, what do you sacrifice? Because
right.
Some of these things, I mean, it's not worth tampering with. I mean, Terence, this isn't a knock to you, Chrono, but I mean, if you look at the history, like I've said this before on the podcast, if you just look at history in general, like we were talking about racism earlier, look how far we've come in the past 100 years. It's just the human race. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now you look at technology. The history of technology grows at such a rapid rate. I mean, me and Terence have been playing sprite-based games before you were born, Chrono. Yeah, and that's not a knock against you. I'm just saying, we've been there. We've seen the evolution and all these things come through. You need to respect it in each generation and keep trying to rehash it and shine it up, because it's weird, because you can't evaluate some things. Like, I was playing the NES and Genesis before there was the internet, before there was cell phones, at least widely known. The world's changed so much, and especially in technology and gaming. The more I think about it, we've been talking about this E3 and these new generations and the most successful generation launch. Really much hadn't changed from the PS3 to PS4 and so on and so forth. Yet, if you look in 10 years and 20 years, just the way, technology, just the way it grows and the history of it is so much more rapid than just regular human history. And you look at the ignorance of all of it. It's just more and more curious to me. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, I think I'm glad you can respect it in the 1997 sense. And sure, it would be great eye candy, but if you start taking out those S&M scenes, I can't get my jerk on. But no, I'm just joking.
On that note.
Though I do the Twin Snakes was actually, I really want to go back and play the PlayStation version of Metal Gear Solid 1 sometime, but I do have to say I did really like the Twin Snakes a lot. So like I think it's a case by case basis, I think, honestly, for remakes.
The music will hold it for Metal Gear 1, because I know you've heard me say this millions of times.
Is spectacular.
You've heard me say this millions of times, Chrono, but yeah, and Terence, I'm probably said it to you before, but Resident Evil 1 and Metal Gear Solid 1 were the games that got me back into gaming. That's the kind of boost I need now to go, oh, you can do this in the game. Because you had that cinematic experience, you had the B-movie of Resident Evil, plus you had the Snake Plissken Plus, just the music of Metal Gear 1, yeah, that steals it alone right there. Plus, breaking people's necks, but you had that convoluted, plus Kojima's storylines. He can get very preachy. But, and yeah, Terrence, I'll just get back to this. Definitely try 3 again. 3's, for most people, especially Johnny will sell you on it. That's like the best one. And 4 really closes the book on 1 through 4, but don't try to play it out of sequence, because it is just a damn preachy mess, and it will get you.
It's going to get you.
It's gonna get you.
Oh, man.
Fucks.
We've been going like an hour over. I think, Terrence, your bedtime, so you want to cut this short?
Unfortunately, is here.
Mm.
But let me do the obligatory plug. Hey guys, I'm on 2 shows on the interwebs. You fucks.
You fucks.
You fucks. So you can see me in my solar effort on Chargeback Forward, which I promise, even though I haven't done a new video since like February or March, my life has come to a point where I can get back to doing that shit, and I actually have played a lot of games now, so I have stuff to talk about. Oh my god, I lost my voice. I have stuff to talk about. And I'm also the co-host on 3 Kilobytes, and you can see me there occasionally as well, whenever I feel like showing up, apparently. Because I'm in like literally like a quarter to a third of their videos. But guys, man, thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for letting me reminisce about Level 6, aka Connect Report, and letting me give you guys the scoop on my next filmic venture.
Oh, no problem, man. Looking forward to it. Always a pleasure to shoot the shit with you, Terrence.
Oh, for sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll be doing this again at some point.
Well, we'll have to. Hopefully, Chrono have played Last of Us, and we'll know what a precog is.
Like right now, I'm gonna do that like right now.
You won't be disappointed.
Get on that, man. I'm so jealous of you to have that, to knowing that you're gonna have that experience fresh. Yeah. Holy fuck.
Yeah. See, it's great because I've spoiled nothing for me basically, and it's great too because I know like Troy Baker is the voice actor of Joel. He's really hit a really major point, his career where he's really big name, and he was my favorite voice actor well before any of this. So it's really great to see him, he's doing the Joker, doing a really high profile role for Naughty Dog. So it's exciting for me, but so I'm looking forward to that.
Excellent. You will enjoy it. You will enjoy it. I could say that with confidence.
Definitely.
All right.
Well, yeah, thanks again for hanging out, man.
Yeah. No problem, man. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me get drunk and talk a lot. We've been talking for so long. I got drunk and sobered out.
There you go.
There's
only one way to end the night, and Chrono, I believe. I'll just let you take it away.
Okay. So yeah, this has been another episode of The Users. Who knows what episode it is? 40-something. We're horrible about posting them, so we'll see where it ends up. It'll end up on YouTube probably pretty soon, though. I'd imagine. Bossy, you recorded this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you're good at that. So
episode you fucks.
You fucks.
And yeah, speaking of which, so we have to end the traditional user's way. So this is Harry S. Plinkett saying. End of line. You fucks!
Don't fucking touch me, you fucks! Oh my god!
What is wrong with your face?
Oh my god, with that lady with that thing in her face. What's wrong with you? Can we actually do a throwback ending? I'll start off, guys, and you can follow along because we've done this before. Go ahead, Law. Go ahead.